undisclosed underground location. Living the American nightmare, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You are now listening to
Notes from the Underground.
Observations over Strange Times, with your host, the narrator.
So how's it going, man?
Going pretty good.
Yeah? What you been up to lately? I haven't seen you since, last spring, our last band practice?
Yeah, it had to have been.
Was it when, probably right before first hay cutting, right? Because that's usually when we go on hiatus.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah.
When the other band members decided Z-League Warzone was more important than band practice.
Yeah, what the fuck, man? Chaston, Matt, Eric, or not Eric, you're Eric. Ryan, if you guys are listening to this shit, come on, you guys, what the fuck?
Hey, Chaston's making big money out in the Warzone.
Oh, yeah?
That's what he says, yeah.
That's Xbox, right? I don't know shit about video games. So.
Yeah, it's Z-League, trademark, whatever it might be for recording purposes, but you play little cash game tournaments, and based on the amount of kills that you get paid out.
Like, in US dollars or like Bitcoin?
No, actual US dollar. But
really?
The thing is, in Michigan, they haven't legalized the payouts yet. So he plays, and he has this giant bank of money that he just can't touch.
Are they gonna legalize the payouts?
I would hope so. I mean, it's one of the biggest esports there is, really. I mean, if you watch any streamer nowadays, if they're not playing Warzone, nobody listens to them.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's just the game to play at the moment. But he'll probably dodge it for Battlefield. Just came out, so we might not see another band practice for probably another 6 months.
That's disappointing.
Right.
You know, when it comes to that, I think I'd rather just practice. You know what I mean? I like doing gigs. I just hate moving all that fucking gear.
Yeah. That and the venues. I mean, there's so few places to play out there, really. Yep. I mean, you got, Scooters and maybe the Yale Pub. If we branched out, I would say, to Memphis. Probably play the Doghouse Tavern. We could play T's Roadhouse. You could play the Hamlin Pub. If you go out down 23 Mile on Gratiot, there's a few bars that do live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities out there once we get back at it, I'd say.
If we could do that, then I would be a little bit more interested in gigging. I'm just, Scooters is great. It's fun. But I think we're at how long have you been in the band now?
It's been 2 years, I believe.
2 years?
Yeah.
I think
we've been 3.
Let me think.
Because we played Halloween in 2018 or 19.
I think that might have been 18 because that was the first year we were living in the house here.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, because that was the night that I hit that deer on the way home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother just smoked one out by us, actually.
Really?
Yep. Yeah.
Buck doe. What did he hit?
He said it was a doe. Took out his headlight, a good portion of his grill. Messed up the wheel well, the fender's toast.
Oh.
I mean, he's probably got $2,000 worth of damage to that truck.
Yeah.
Easily.
Oh God.
Well, when I hit the one, it was 2 years ago when I bought the car. Shoot, he did $6,000 worth of damage, and it didn't even kill the deer.
You're shitting me.
Nope. Hit him on Gratiot and Division Road, almost right at the light. Just jumped out of the field on my left-hand side, and I drilled that deer. I had to have been doing probably 57, 60, but I didn't even have a chance to touch the brake. I mean, my insurance didn't even make me pay a deductible because they saw the damage clearly on the side of the vehicle and not in the front. So clearly I still had control of the car, but I pulled into some nothing broken down garage that's, I think, like a closed down auto repair place. But the doe was in the middle of the road, and people started just kind of slowing down. And one guy in a truck stopped dead in front of it, laid on his horn like 3 times, and the deer jumped up and ran right back from where it came.
Oh.
Yeah. So I didn't even get, a free couple of venison steaks out of the deal.
Yeah, I think this whole season, I think I may have hunted maybe 4 or 5 times. You know what I mean? I haven't had the time. I'm constantly working or doing something around here.
Right.
It's like...
Yeah, based on what I've seen, it's been kind of a bad season for everybody. I don't really know what it is, but I haven't seen the big buck picture yet on Facebook.
Right.
I haven't, talked to anybody that's had a great story about a hunt they were on.
Right.
So maybe something about it this year. Just not the year to go out.
My father-in-law tagged out during bow season. He got 2 bucks. But it's not, they were nice bucks, don't get me wrong, but It's not like they were monsters, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's hard to find anywhere.
Yeah, in
here,
Michigan, yeah, absolutely, that's hard to find. So.
Yeah, unless you're going way up north, you're not going to find the monster bucks.
Right. So we picked a pretty good day to have this podcast here. The Rittenhouse trial, how about that?
I was definitely a fan of the trial. I watched coverage pretty much from day one. The prosecutor and his antics and...
Yeah, dude, what the hell? I was hearing something, I think it was today or yesterday, I heard something like they took a drone video and like manipulated it somehow so that it was like false evidence or something like that.
Well, from what I had seen, the actual story behind the drone video is that it caught an angle of a similar video that was introduced by the prosecution as evidence.
Like a cell phone video?
Yeah, something to that effect. But at the same time, it's the prosecutor's duty to present all exculpatory evidence to the defense so they can make their case.
Right.
Well, this was premium high-def video and a very good angle of apparently the Gabe... I can't remember his last name, the survivor that got shot in the bicep.
Yeah.
So apparently...
was that Gage?
Gage, thank you. Gross.
Yeah, whatever.
Like yeah, but the prosecution had this video and did not give it to the defense. And in this case, the defense was actually asking for a mistrial because they did not turn that video over.
Right.
And it's perfectly good grounds to ask for a mistrial. If the prosecutor was withholding this high definition video, there's obviously some kind of a reason why he did that.
Right.
Because it probably showed a great view of this guy approaching Kyle Rittenhouse and then physically trying to grab the rifle.
Right.
And I think that was him. No, I want to say Gage was the one with the 9mm with the Glock 19.
I think that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So this drone video probably caught him walking from a distance up to Rittenhouse and then drawing the pistol, which he on the stand admitted to.
Yeah, I heard that.
Becoming a defense, witness. So, you have to ask for a mistrial as a defense lawyer.
Right.
It was just the right play. And it turns out it didn't really matter because, he was found not guilty on all counts. But I think the defense did a fantastic job, personally. Yeah. He was pinpoint accurate on every point he made.
Could you imagine being a juror in that trial?
Oh, it'd be amazing. I personally have always loved like courtroom dramas and movies. Like A Few Good Men is one of my absolute favorite films. But if I were a jury, I would have been on pins and needles the whole time.
Exactly.
The media's involved. You know that if you give this not guilty verdict, the whole city might burn down again.
Right. Yeah, I was listening to the radio on the way home from work, and I think the station is either it's either an ABC News or a Fox News affiliate, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they went to some reporter on the ground in Kenosha,
right?
And what the hell did she say? It blew my mind because she goes, yeah, it's really quiet here. I'm actually surprised, and I'm thinking to myself, bitch, are you surprised or are you disappointed?
Yeah,
you know
that
what
had
I
to have been an
mean?
ABC affiliate, because that doesn't sound like a Fox affiliate. to
Right,
me.
right.
Yeah.
And it was just the way she said it. It was like, that's not surprise. That's disappointment in your voice. You want something to happen.
Yeah, because it wasn't about the trial. It's
Right.
never about the trial to them, because the facts don't matter. It's just the narrative. The media is going to push their narrative because that's what they want to see. They want this ammunition for future campaigns and future legislation to be passed. I mean, had he been found guilty of all counts, they would just say, oh, well, you know, we were justified in burning down the city.
Yep.
We were justified in the police excessively using force on Jacob Blake, which was the whole reason for this in the first place.
Right.
I mean, they just, they feed on it. They do. The whole left side of the aisle, they have a real problem with bias in the media. And
Oh, yeah.
they just don't care about the facts of the cases at all.
Right. I like how don't get me wrong, before I say this, I understand that, you know, the riots or the protests,
Right.
it was a goddamn riot is what it was.
Yeah, factual.
But I understand that the riots were because a black dude got shot. I get that.
Sure.
Or yeah, he got shot by a cop, right?
He did, yeah. Jacob Blake got shot in the back when he was basically trying to abduct a child.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, he had gone to his baby mama's house, for lack of a better term, and she called the police because he had entered the house without permission, and then took the kid, got in the car, and was ordered to stop more times than you could count. I mean, the guy had every opportunity to stop what he was doing and surrender to the police. He had an open warrant for, I believe, sexual assault against the woman that called the police.
Oh, jeez.
And then he was reaching for a knife. The cop justifiably, again, which was proven in court, shot him in the back about 6 times and left him paralyzed. So you haven't heard much about that in the media because A, he didn't die, so he's not a martyr like they would have hoped. The media was probably drooling as he was in the hospital. Like,
Oh, I'm sure they
let
were.
this guy die.
I'm sure they were.
Please. But yeah, it didn't happen. And then shortly thereafter, the riots in Kenosha started.
Okay. So I understand that, you know, a black guy got shot, and no matter what the guy did, I don't really think people should just be getting shot in the street, regardless of that.
Yeah.
I like how. What the hell was that? Oh,
Sorry.
phone.
Sorry,
No, it's
phone.
all right. Don't worry about it. It just scared me. But the media, you're hearing clips of, like, now granted it's The View, obviously, but like the clucking hens on The View are all trying to turn this into a race issue. Hollywood's trying to turn, it's like, dude, 3 white dudes got shot by a fucking white dude. You know what I mean? Like,
And 3 guys on top of that with charges.
Yeah,
I mean, you had the one
exactly.
pedophile, the one that had some kind of a strangulation charge, if I'm not mistaken. And the other one was a known felon as well. I can't remember the charge, but I mean, it was funny to me. They bring this case and they say, oh, well, you know, even if he's not convicted of murder, we can still get him on a weapons charge.
Right.
Which turned out to be total bullshit anyway. So where is the prosecutor for Gabe Grosskreutz or whatever, who pulled a 9mm while he was a felon? He's in possession of a Glock 19, and he's a felon. That is a crime.
That's
period.
a crime.
But you don't hear a word from them about that.
didn't he also wasn't part of it that, like, Rittenhouse is being chased by the guy that he killed, the first guy that he killed,
Right. Rosenbaum, if I'm not mistaken.
Then the Gage guy, didn't he pull his 9mm out and he, like, fired it into the air or something like that?
I don't know if they knew that was Grosskreutz that fired the shot randomly.
Somebody
in the air,
fired the
but
random
they're-
shot,
yeah.
though, and that's what caused Rittenhouse to turn around. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It just, what a story, dude.
Oh, it was amazing.
The pundits have been they've just been having a field day with it. Do you listen to Tim Pool?
I do occasionally.
Yeah. he has been going. He's like you. He's been following this case like
Since day
word for word. He can probably recite the whole damn thing back to you.
Nice.
You know what I mean? But he's been going off about it. Shapiro's been going off about it.
Yeah.
Bongino's been going off about it. Everybody's just like this. This might be dramatic, but this is definitely the biggest story of the year. This might be the biggest story of the decade.
I would.
You know
agree
what
with
I
that.
mean?
Yeah, you haven't seen a trial with this kind of coverage since OJ.
Yeah,
Arguably.
yeah. It's like OJ.
I mean, maybe
it didn't
the-
last as long because I think OJ went for like 8 months, didn't it?
Yeah, it was quite a long time. But he had Johnny Cochran on his side, who, if nothing else, was there for pure comedic value. But the only other trial I can think is the George Floyd trial.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, arguably about the same, but I think this got a lot better coverage.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. I think the self-defense element. Dude,
It's
if he would have
intriguing.
lost that trial, it would have been a nail in the coffin for self-defense.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, granted, I'm kind of the mind that I really don't think I understand why he was there. Like, I understand his reasoning for being there. He's got family there. I think they said his dad is either his dad or his grandmother lived pretty close to what,
I
you know, the
believe
area
his
that it was
dad.
going on. So he's got family there. He works there. I understand that. But dude, you're 17.
Right.
When I was 17, first of all, I was a fucking retard when I was 17. You know what I mean? But I would have never thought. Now, two, you know, the world was different when we were 17. I mean, it didn't seem like it was as bad as it is now when we were younger.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation.
right,
too.
right.
But
Yeah, when I was 17, I never would have thought to pick up a gun and go into a riot. You know, that I got to give the kid credit for balls. Like, either you're nuts or you've got the biggest balls in the world, because that takes balls. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna call him nuts in a way. I think he was overzealous to even be there, like you
Yeah,
said.
a
And that
little
was-
excited.
But to make the prosecution's argument all about that fact was so wrong. I mean, how, as a prosecutor, are you going to say that it's not self-defense because he provoked this? You can say he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was a troublemaker. He was out looking for trouble. Well, then what the hell were the 3 guys he shot?
Oh, absolutely.
This argument doesn't hold water.
Right.
It just doesn't. And I've heard that from everybody who disagrees with this trial. Oh, he was just out there looking for trouble. I really don't believe he was. I don't.
No, I believe him when he says that he was there to help. He was there to, he was there to protect his family, and the kid's an EMT.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's got the EMT training. Maybe I'm not that virtuous. That's why I didn't learn how to be an EMT.
Sure.
You know, but maybe the kid's just that virtuous, and he wanted to go help people, and that's great.
Yeah.
But
I think he would have had quite a career in the military,
He
personally.
probably would have.
You can enlist as 17 with a waiver. And the fact that he was well versed enough with his weapon to have that amount of discipline to only shoot targets that he wanted to shoot.
Right.
And he wasn't unloading magazines into guys, which, had he done that, guilty, period.
Yep.
You can't unload 30 rounds into a guy and get away with it.
Right.
But he didn't. He shot the one guy in the arm once, one pull of the trigger, and he knew his target was disabled.
Right.
And incapacitated, and that's all it took.
Well, didn't he also have like law enforcement training?
It was, some kind of a cadet training, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure they did mild firearms training, but probably nothing to the extent that he showed that kind of discipline for. I don't think he was very well trained, but I think he knew how to operate that weapon.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just, and another thing too, I kind of think that the fact that he was there really is irrelevant to the case. It doesn't matter that he was there. What matters is what happened when he was there. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Granted, obviously they're going to try and play the angle, or you shouldn't have been there. But again, that's irrelevant.
Right.
What we're talking about here is his life was being threatened, and he had a choice, and he made the choice.
And apparently the right choice, according to the jury.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I mean, this argument that, would you shoot everybody that hit you in the head with a skateboard? I'm sorry, I would. Have you seen a skateboard? That's thick wood.
Yeah.
Those are metal trucks.
Yep.
I mean, if you get clocked in the head enough with those, you're done.
Yep.
And had he been incapacitated, who's to say they wouldn't have taken his rifle and turned it on him?
Oh, I think the guy that the guy that he lit up.
Yeah.
That guy had every intention of getting that AR-15 and killing that kid.
I agree.
Because I now don't quote me on this, but I thought I heard something about like the day he died, he had gotten out of a mental institution.
Oh, this I haven't heard.
I forget. It was either Tim Pool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to really attribute it to Shapiro.
No, I've listened to Ben Shapiro's coverage. I don't think he mentioned anything about that.
It might have been. It may have even been Glenn Beck that brought that up. But somebody said that he had been in a mental institution.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me with the way he was acting.
And that he was also carrying, like he had his bag of stuff from when he was in the institution.
Oh, wow.
With him, like his clothes and, like his, like basically he got out of wherever he was at, got on a bus and showed up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which begs the conspiracy theorist question of, are these people actually being bussed in there? I mean, how many of these people were there to legit protest?
Bussed in by the globalists.
Right, yeah.
Alex Jones.
I mean, it does raise interesting questions. But I know for sure, even based on defense evidence and apparently some of the prosecutors' witnesses too, that Rosenbaum threatened to kill him.
Yeah, he did. I heard that too. Yeah,
he literally said, if I catch you alone tonight, I will kill you. He said that to Rittenhouse and his friend Dominic, if I'm not mistaken, was his name. Yeah. So, I mean, even at that point, you just make the self-defense argument stand up even better.
Right there, yeah. He literally threatened, and, I mean, the kid probably didn't know at the time that he was a criminal or whatnot, but...
I don't think he knew until he killed him.
Right. He was threatened by a known criminal, a career criminal. And you know what, as far as I'm concerned, I know I said that I don't think people should be getting shot in the streets, but the world has one less pedophile. That's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, that guy got off easily, because if I had my way, pedophiles would be flayed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no questions asked. There's no cure for that.
There's no cure for that.
That's mental. There's no being rehabilitated for being a pedophile. Right. Sorry. I'll even go woke. Minor attracted person.
What the hell is that crap?
The media and the left, I personally think for a while, have been trying to normalize pedophilia.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, and it is disgusting.
It's disgusting. And I mean, not that I was ever pro pedophilia, but like once you have a kid, that thought becomes even more intense. Definitely. I will fucking kill pedophiles. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, wow. got a little intense there for a minute. For killing pedophiles and shit. Well, before we get into the topic that I wanted to talk about tonight, let's you want some of this wild turkey?
Absolutely.
I think this is about a year old, because I think I bought this bottle right after I started my new job is when I bought this bottle. So it's a little old. And it's wild turkey. It's not like we're drinking, aged awesome bourbon over here. This is wild turkey.
Yeah, this is redneck classy.
Yep.
I mean, it's better than Ezra Brooks, I guess.
I've never had that.
Oh, no. That's something you give somebody if you want to see them hit the floor in about 2 hours. That's shout out to Matt. That's Matt level drunk after the outdoor show in Port Huron.
Did I miss that?
Oh, I had to give him a ride home.
Dude.
Yeah, great times.
I always...
Think he told me he loved me at least 6 times.
Here, cheers.
Cheers.
I always miss the good stories like that, you know? Like the night they got into they got into a bar fight at the Titty Bar.
That was after the Halloween show, and I missed it too.
Oh, you missed that one too?
Yeah, I had to get home to the girlfriend that night and decided against going to the infamous Bisco's.
Oh, geez, that place.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the guy that was in the fight too. I won't name any names, but he's pretty well known for that. So,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The one time I went there, it was... Now, I think you're thinking about a different time, because if it was the one after Halloween, that's the one that I was at. Dude,
oh, you were there.
I almost got hit in the face with a full can of beer at that place,
oh, Jesus.
man. The fight broke out. It was crazy. We're all sitting there. It's after the show. We're sitting in the Titty Bar, and the girl's up on stage dancing. I think Tasha and Emily went and got drinks.
Okay.
Well, they come back, and they sit down at the table. And then all of a sudden, I don't know how this got started. And I was watching the show.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Why not?
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the stripper just starts kicking this girl in the face. You know, I mean jackbooting her in the face. Ouch. You know. And then somebody jumps up on the stage. God, this is like a year and a half, 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
But somebody jumped up on the stage and started fighting with the stripper. And then all of a sudden, the entire bar just like mosh pit collided.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? And at that point, I looked at Chasten and he looked at me, and it was like at the same time we both were like, let's get the fuck out of here. You know, this is going to get out of control.
Well, that place is out of control. At least it used to be shut down now.
Yeah, is it shut down permanently now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were stories about people getting hit by cars in the parking lot, people pulling guns out. I mean, I've heard all kinds of wild stories about that place.
But just as we walk out, because you know there's the one door, like the main entrance door.
Sure.
And then off to the side, there's that other door.
Yeah.
Okay. We come out the main entrance door, and we're like 50 feet from that other door.
Yeah.
You know, and this dude just comes bursting out of the fucking door. The door flies open. People come falling out of the door. And this dude, I don't know who the hell he was, but I got to give him credit because for some reason there was a full can of Bud Light, like unopened can of Bud Light sitting on the hood of a car.
Parking lot drinkers.
Okay.
Typical. Yeah.
This dude, and he's shirtless and he's pumped up and he's he's ready to go. He just backhands this full can of beer, right?
Yeah.
Thing bursts open off of his knuckles. Like this dude like karate chops this thing, you know? And this thing comes flying at me and it just like right past my face. You know, and at that point it's like, all right, let's get in the car, let's get the fuck out of here because this shit's gonna get crazy.
Yeah.
Some girl was dressed up like the Joker from Batman. She got I think she was the one that was getting kicked in the face.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was crazy.
Yeah, she was there at the show that night, actually.
That's right, because that show, that was the night that was like Scooter's Halloween party, and they did the costume contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely recall that evening.
God, all right. If we need to start gigging again because you've only had a couple of gigs with us.
True.
You know, and you need to have some wild nights with us because we've had some wild nights. Oh my. We could sit here and do a whole podcast just about the wild nights we've had.
Sounds like a future episode with the guys.
I want to get it set up so that I can have 3-4 people in here.
Oh, sure.
But right now, since I'm still kind of learning, you know, about how to do all this shit, I could probably do 3, like we were talking about. I think
Chasten.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. I could probably do 3, but I want to test it before I just jump right into it. You know, I want to test it out and see how it works.
Yeah. Video feed would be good too.
Yeah, eventually. Once I'm in, if this takes off,
right.
You know, because to be completely honest, I'm expecting it to fail. Not like, oh, boo-hoo me. It's just the odds are.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Chances are it'll fail. It won't catch traction, whatever.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it'll fail.
Sure.
That's what I'm expecting. But if it doesn't, once I get out of the blanket fort in the basement,
Yeah.
you know, and I can afford either like a studio space or even if I find a way to get creative with it, I do want to get into video. It just, again, I'm learning, you know, I'm kind of learning how to do this shit. So, but anyway, so I don't know if I said this yet, but thanks for coming on. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I kind of wanted to talk tonight a little bit about your experience in Afghanistan. And before I go any farther, don't say anything that's going to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, sure.
Don't say anything that's going to get you in trouble.
No,
you know, nothing like that. And if I ask a question that makes you uncomfortable, I'm kind of naive on what not to ask. I don't really know what not to ask.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
And also, if you know any questions you don't want to answer, just say, I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah,
so
I understand.
I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to ask, ridiculous questions or nothing like that. But
no, not a problem.
So I had a list of some things I wanted to ask you. So I guess the first thing is, introduce yourself, state your name, the branch of the service you were in, and your rank.
Gotcha. Yeah, my name's Eric Manos. I was 13 Bravo in the United States Army, active duty, 4th Brigade, 10th Mountain Division, 525 Field Artillery. I was a gunner by trade after my first deployment. And rank-wise, I don't think I'll mention that on there, just to be honest.
Okay, that's
just
fine.
It gets kind of weird with ranks.
Okay.
A lot of people discount a lot of the things you say just based on your rank.
Okay. Fair enough.
I was a grunt. We'll put it to you that way.
Okay.
Enlisted, not a commissioned officer.
You enlisted. Okay.
Yeah.
When did you sign up, and what kind of made you decide to make the choice? And thank you for your service, by the way.
Oh yeah, much appreciated. It was 2010 when I enlisted. I started basic training in June of 2010. I got into the Army kind of late, actually. I intended on enlisting when I was 18, but it would have broke my mom's heart.
Yeah.
That's all there was to it. I had a job at a Radio Shack, dead-end job. I did fairly well because I was good at sales. But I gave a guy a discount, no lie, like the story of how I joined the Army. He comes in complaining about the price of a pack of 4 AA batteries. And he says, come on, man, hook me up, do something. So I'm like, all right, I'm just tired. I don't want to deal with this guy. So I'll give you my employee discount, right? So eventually he comes back and returns the batteries, which then flags as a return. Corporate sees it. Sees that I gave him an employee discount, and they end up firing me over it.
Really?
Absolutely. It was a total of 84 cents.
They fired you over 84 cents.
Yeah, so shout out to Radio Shack for no longer being in business.
Yeah, congratulations on that one, guys.
That 84 cents would have saved the company, But, that day I remember just going home and saying, you know what, I'm just going to go straight to a recruiter. It had to have been... I think I had to start my shift at 1 o'clock. I was kind of unceremoniously fired over the phone because the district manager didn't have the balls to do it face to face.
Oh, jeez.
My manager at the time was like a longtime high school friend. She was in tears because I looked at her as I was walking out and I said, I'm going straight to a recruiter. I'm going right to Port Huron. I'm going straight to the recruiter. And she said, oh my God, you're going to be the reason, or I'm going to be the reason that you get killed in the military. And I told her, I'm like, no, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And it was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back.
So you had been thinking about it then. It wasn't like it was just some random thing you decided.
No. I thought about it out of high school. I had a couple of recruiters try to get me in. I didn't have the greatest grade point average. I think I was like a B student. But I was athletic, definitely in good shape. So the recruiters that came to the high school, they were tossing every pamphlet at me they could: Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force. The reason I joined the Army actually is because they had the shortest amount of time to be able to get me into basic training.
Really?
The recruiting station was a joint recruiter, so they had all 4 major branches, and I think even the Coast Guard. And I literally went door to door, and I went to the Navy. I'm like, okay, before you sell me the pitch, how long before I can get in? They said, it's about a 6-month waiting period. Wow. I said, okay. I'm like, I'll be right back. And then I booked it over to the Air Force. They said, we're only taking combat pilots, and I guarantee you're not going to be able to test high enough. I said, all right, fair enough. So I'm not going to deny this. I probably shouldn't be flying a fighter jet.
Would you have, though, if they would have given you the opportunity?
It would have been a fun job. But spoiler alert, I'm partially colorblind, which limited my choice of careers.
All right.
So, yeah, that wouldn't have worked out anyway. But, yeah, flying a fighter jet would have been quite the experience.
Yeah, it would have.
So I went to the Marine Corps. They said, we can get you in 60 days. I said, all right, I got one more stop and I'll be right back. And it's funny because when you go into these recruiting stations, these guys have quotas to meet. So as I'm walking down the hall, I feel like a Thai hooker, like getting catcalled by all 4 branches of the military. Hey, come on in here, man. Yeah, I got a bonus for you. You want that bonus? Yeah. I'm like, all right, whoa, guys, relax.
That's great.
Yeah, so I wind up at the Army recruiter, and he says 30 days. I said, all right. I said, you got me. You're the best so far, so let's start the used car salesman pitch. And it was funny because he said I was well-spoken by the end of it, and I ended up doing a face-to-face interview with the Times-Herald in Port Huron. They were trying to do an interview with somebody that was getting in and ask them pretty much the exact same question. Why are you getting in? Why do you want to do this? And he said, you're the first guy that's come in here with the IQ of, a normal, average, functional human being. So we would love to have you do this interview.
You're kidding me.
No, dead serious. Yeah, they came to my house, did an article with me. I think if you Google search my name, you'll probably find it somewhere.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
No shit. All right.
Yeah.
I got the internet over here. I'm going to look this shit up.
Yeah, go ahead and take a look.
Hold on, it's going to take a minute. I got to load it all up.
Yeah, this will be a big blast from the past. I was 24 at the time, and I'm 35 now. So you're going to laugh when you see 24-year-old
24-year-old Eric? Oh,
yeah.
God, I can't wait.
Yeah, I've got a nice patchy beard. I've got a backwards cap on. I think a red hoodie. You know what? I might have cleaned up a little bit, but I remember seeing the video, and I said, wow, I should have shaved. Because, I looked scraggly. So type in my first and last name and then Army, and you'll probably find something.
Did you mean Eric Munn Army?
No. No. It's funny, there were only 8 other guys in the Army with my last name. You could look it up in an email directory. Might have to type in like Times-Herald.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to find this. This is going to be great.
They archived it for a long time. I don't know if it's still there or not.
Yeah, Times-Herald News. That's what I want. Newspapers from Port Huron. 2005?
No, it would have been later than that. Should have been 2010.
Okay. There's an Angela Manos, 32-year Army veteran. Any
Really?
relation?
No, never heard of it.
I can't find it.
Yeah,
if anybody's listening and you try and if you find it after listening to this, either send it to me in an email or post it to the Facebook page. I got to see this shit.
Yeah, it's a pretty good interview. I think they started off with me just playing Call of Duty in front of them. And a friend of mine called me and he's like, hey, man, did you see the article that they wrote about you? I'm like, no, I didn't. I didn't bother to read it. I wasn't really interested. But he's like, they made you look like kind of a dumbass. I'm like, really? How? He's like, well, they started the article off by saying, Eric is playing Call of Duty, and even though the game's realistic graphics seem to put you into warfare, he has no idea what he's in store for. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like, it's some know-nothing reported from Port Huron trying to make a good headline. I'm not mad at her.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, it was still a good time.
So you sign up.
Yep.
And now, here's a quick question for you. Is there any particular reason why, I think, what'd you say, the Navy was 6 months, the Marine Corps was 60 days?
Yeah, it depends on the amount of people in the force at the time.
Oh.
They have limitations in terms of certain military occupational specialties or an MOS. So at the time, the Navy was full up because this is 2010.
Okay.
Like, you're getting pretty close to peacetime. The major push in Iraq was over. The major part of the conflict in Afghanistan was pretty well over, except for the hunt for bin Laden. But they had everybody they needed. The Army, even for most MOSs, was pretty full up. I think they were taking a lot of EOD guys to disarm roadside bombs. And,
what is EOD?
Explosive Ordnance Disposal.
Okay.
Yeah, they're the guys you've seen on, was it the Hurt Locker?
Okay.
Yeah, they put on the big spacesuit and disarm bombs.
Okay.
Yeah, they were offering a $50,000 bonus for that job at the time.
Well, yeah. I mean, the chance of getting blown up is like at least 50%.
Oh, yeah. But there's a funny quote that EOD guys, like, they get asked this question a lot. Like, aren't you worried? And they're like, well, my job's kind of easy. Either I do my job right or I don't have any problems anymore.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you either defuse the bomb or you're done.
Well, that's one way to look at it, I guess.
Yeah, you definitely develop a dark sense of humor in the military.
So, how long? Okay, so you sign up.
Yep.
And now, how long does it take to go from enlistment to? Oh, you said, what was it? 30 days to boot camp?
Yeah, they said 30 days out. I ended up getting delayed, I think, by about 15 days. You enter into a contract after you take the ASVAB. So you got to take the aptitude test first. Once you've passed the ASVAB, you sign the contract.
Okay.
But in the time in between, you're doing what they call the Future Soldier Program, and they basically run you through like a little mini boot camp. They're going to tell you rank structure. They're going to tell you basic customs and courtesies. They're going to tell you about the PT test, physical requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, if I throw an acronym at you and you don't know it, call me out and I'll tell you what it is. But it took 45 days. I got delayed on my ASVAB. I got bused to the station out in Warren to take the ASVAB, and something was going wrong with the computers that day.
What's ASVAB?
Shoot.
Call me out.
That one, it's an acronym basically for what the military equates as to an IQ test.
Okay.
It gives you a score and actually breaks down scores based on general technical knowledge, mechanical knowledge, electrical knowledge, mathematical knowledge, and reading comprehension, if I'm correct on all 5 subcategories. Your GET score is what matters. That's like the culmination of everything, and it's 1 out of 150. I think I got 132 GET score, which is, I think, the top 10%.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, which wasn't bad for not studying at all and being out of high school for 6 years. Not having cracked a book. I did nothing in the Future Soldier Program except learn the rank structure. I learned the Soldier's Creed, and I learned basic customs and courtesies. That was it.
Okay.
So I took the ASVAB, got back, and my recruiter's eyes lit up. He's like, oh, I got a guy here. I'm going to get him in. I'll get him a nice cushy job. So I chose a military intelligence job. I think it was 32 Romeo was the designation for the MOS. It was a visual operator equipment maintainer, or visual equipment operator and maintainer. I'm sorry. Basically, from what I understand, it would have equated to being a drone pilot. So
Wow.
yeah, it would have been a great job, except I ended up going to medical processing, and they find out I'm partially colorblind.
Oh.
So my list of 27 jobs went down to 4. I had infantry, truck driver, military, police, and field artillery. So my recruiter just so happened to be a 13 Bravo field artillery cannon crew member, which was what I ended up going with, and he sold me on it. I mean, it was obviously the best choice out of them. If I would have went in infantry, my mom would have killed me. Truck drivers, we joked around and called them bomb finders. Military police, they basically trolled around on posts, driving around like the grocery store parking lot, pulling guys over for doing more than 5 miles and over on a military base.
Right.
So, yeah, that's not what I wanted to do.
So, okay, so you say it's 45 days now. Okay, so it's you sign up, 45 days later you leave for boot camp. Yeah. Can you say where you did boot camp? Or
yeah,
no?
Absolutely. Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay, what was... All right, everybody, when they think of boot camp, they think of Full Metal Jacket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm sure in today's day and age, it's probably nowhere near what Full Metal Jacket was the Marines, but...
Right, yeah, the Marine Corps does have it a lot harder, in my opinion, than boot camp.
Okay, so what was boot camp like?
You get there day 0, and I remember walking into a big auditorium. The first thing they do is ask you if you have any contraband. You got your last chance, and they have what they call an amnesty box. So if you've got a pack of smokes, if you decided to bring a flask with you, if you have any kind of communication device, they're going to ask you for that right then and there. I was about to throw away my last pack of Marlboros, and one of they call them reception drill sergeants. He comes up to me and he says, "Hey, you going to throw those in that box?" And I responded, "Yes, drill sergeant," assuming that's what I was supposed to do. He said, "Hell no, I smoked those. Give me that."
Nice.
Yeah, so he took my last pack of Marlboro Reds. And, I mean, that's when it really hit home, to be honest, when I was like, that's it. I'm in boot camp now.
Yeah,
Can't
man.
have a cigarette. I can't text a, random friend. I can't go on Facebook. Not that I ever really used it that much, but you feel generally cut off the second you walk in that door.
You can't even smoke in boot camp?
No.
How do they expect you to get through that shit?
Oh, you just go cold turkey. It's part of the discipline, really. I mean, they take away every vice you've ever had. They want to break you down. That is their purpose in boot camp. So they're going to break you down to bare minimum to build you back up as a soldier.
Wow.
Yeah, and it works. I was angry, grumpy for the first 2-3 weeks. There was one particular drill sergeant that did smoke, and when he would walk by me, I could smell it on him.
Oh, God,
and
that's the worst.
My eyes would just turn red. I'm like, oh, my God, I wish I could have a cigarette right now. But he was actually a really good guy. Drill Sergeant Powers was his name. He was funny as hell. Definitely big on the discipline and smoking. Smoking, so everybody knows, is what they refer to as when somebody screws up and they're going to basically physically work you until you can't move. He loved doing it. He would try to make you laugh, try to make you break discipline. But one day he saw me. One particular guy in basic training, I can't remember his name. He was the guy that we called that guy. He was the guy that always got us in trouble, that always got us smoked, that couldn't hack it. And he didn't end up making it through basic training, but he did something stupid in formation, and he made me break discipline because I grabbed him. And I said, "I swear to God, if you get us smoked one more time, I'm going to pound you into oblivion." Drill Sergeant Powers grabs me. He's like, "Come with me." I'm like, "Oh, great. Here we go. This guy's going to toss me around. He's probably going to tell me you can't do that." He pulls me to the back of the barracks and he says, "Hey, do you smoke?" I said, "Well, I did, Drill Sergeant." He's like, "All right." He pulls out Marlboro Reds, just like I smoked. And he says, "Here, take this." And he hands me one. And I immediately go, "Is this a trap?"
Yeah, that's what
like,
I would think.
He took off his cap. And when they take I should say cover, that's what they're going to call them. It's the Drill Sergeant brown round hat. He took it off and said, I'm just me and you now. Well, I'm a normal guy. I just saw you try to kill that dude. I saw it in your eyes. Don't lie to me. Have the cigarette. Go back to formation and remember who you are. He's not going to be here much longer.
Wow.
And he actually got this guy out. He wound up being what they call the drill sergeant of the cycle. We all got to vote on like our favorite drill sergeant, and he won it based on, I think it was 250 some people in my basic training class.
Wow.
And, for a drill sergeant, he was pretty well liked.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, when you say he said to you that he's not going to be, like, does that mean that the drill sergeants actually have the ability to, like, kick people out of boot camp?
Absolutely. It's part of the reason why they're there.
Now, does that count as, like, a dishonorable discharge? Or?
No, it would be a general under honorable discharge for a failure to adapt.
Okay.
Failure to adapt is a short way of saying failure to adapt to a military lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, if you can't hack it, they don't. Obviously, they don't want you. But if you can't hack it, they don't want you.
Yeah, I mean, after reception, you've got 0 week. They're gonna process you. I remember doing the lineup with the haircuts. I mean, that's Full Metal Jacket, right?
Where they just sit you down and shave your head.
Shave your head. Guys were in tears. Personally,
Really?
I shaved my head before I got there, expecting it. I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna save the guy his time. I sat down in the chair and they, buzzed me a little closer. But some guys have full heads of hair and they were just crying.
It's just hair, man. It'll grow back.
Yep. Well, not during basic training.
Well, no, yeah, because they're gonna. What do they do? What, like once a week they shave you or something?
It was about once every 2 weeks. I took to just using a razor on my head.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, drill sergeants love me because I was clean shaven. Except I've been able to grow a beard since I was 16, so I had to carry a razor with me. The first 2 weeks of basic, I had drill sergeants every day. Did you shave this morning, Private? Yes, drill sergeant. Why you lying to me? I'm not lying to you.
I got a lot of testosterone, man. Yeah. I can grow a good beard.
That's how it was. I was that kid when I was like 13. I started growing a mustache.
Yeah.
And I had hair on my legs and all the girls would giggle at me, and I laughed it off. But eventually one of the drill sergeants told me, he's like, hey, you might just have to carry a razor in your cargo pocket and shave when you're out of formation, because we're going to keep hassling you about it. We have a standard to set. And if these other people think you're getting away with it, it makes it look like we're playing favorites.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I dry shaved once a day, pretty much every day. Yeah. Just to stay within the regulations, if you will.
I hate shaving. Dude,
yeah, so do I.
The military would be so hard for me. It would be so hard for me.
First thing I did when I got out was just stop shaving.
Would you grow like a Grizzly Adam beard?
I don't think I shaved for the first probably month and a half, 2 months when I got out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, my dad looked at me and he said, son, you look like a homeless biker. I was like, oh.
That sounds like something my dad would say.
I was like, I should probably clean that up.
You look like a homeless biker.
Yeah. And then after the haircuts, uniform issue, gear issue, fit you for your boots, and basically tell you what uniform to wear at what time. We did a little bit of PT, and then after 5 days of death by PowerPoint about what we were going to go through at basic training, it was time to get on the bus.
Death by PowerPoint. When you say that, you mean like you were in a classroom for a week straight watching PowerPoint presentations?
Absolutely.
Really? Oh, dude, I'd kill myself.
Yeah, how to conduct yourself at basic training, how to talk to a drill sergeant, what to expect. And I mean, week by week by week, they'd break it down. Week 1, you'll learn basic tasks, customs and courtesies, and drill and ceremony, marching. After that, you get issued a rifle and you start doing weapons trainings. Week 3, I think, was the first PT test. Week 4, I think, was the first field training exercise. Week 5 was range, and week 6 was range. You had to zero the weapons and qualify. Week 7 and 8 were another field training exercise, and week 9 was kind of the culmination of everything. And then you're pretty well a soldier after a 22K road march, I want to say, with a 40 pound pack.
Now you say march, is that like march, or is that like in the movies when you see them making them run up mountains and shit like that?
No, it was pretty straightforward.
It
Up
was
and down
just you were
terrain.
just marching.
Yeah, a standard march, road march, is 2 columns separated about 20 feet apart, and you're probably about, I want to say they said 3 meters, so call it 10 feet apart from the guy in front and behind you.
Okay.
The purpose of doing it this way was if, say, an explosion were to happen in the middle of the formation, it would cause minimum casualties.
Right.
You don't want to be bunched up.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah, but up and down terrain for sure. The 40-pound pack for 20K was a pretty rough hike. We lost probably about 12 or 15 people just not being able to make it. They followed you with a medical Humvee, like a medic's Humvee has a big red cross on it. And the rule was if you fell behind that Humvee, you got in the back. And then you had to do it again. But
You're kidding me.
If you didn't make it the first time, you got a second chance. And if you didn't make it that time, bye-bye.
So if you didn't make it, you were done. You were out of the military. They didn't want you.
Yeah, and they would basically get you out on a failure to adapt like anything else.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, could you imagine that? Say you walk, it's a 22 mile.
Yeah, roughly, I'd say about 18.
18?
Yeah,
Okay.
a mile's a little bit less than a click.
Okay.
Yeah.
So say you make it like 17 miles and you just can't go.
That's it.
And then you got to walk another 18 miles to qualify.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you were at click, 21 and you rolled an ankle and fell behind that truck, you were getting on it. You could not pick somebody up, carry them, help them, push them, nothing. It's always a group task at basic training, but this is an individual event. There's a couple individual events. PT tests for physical training. It was 2 minutes push-ups, 2 minutes sit-up, and a 2-mile run. So you had to do that by yourself. Rifle qual, individual. I mean, that's all on you. If you can't hit the targets, that's your problem, not the platoons.
Right.
The road march, you're marching together, and you feel like, this is us, and we're going to make it as a team, because you really grow with these people throughout 9 weeks. Like, I made a lot of good friends at basic training. I still talk to them. But at the end of the day, if you don't make it, that's it. It's on you.
Okay. All right. So, did anybody fail?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of a class of 250, I think we graduated probably 200. Wow. Yeah. I mean, for any various reason, disciplinary issues, failures to adapt, can't pass a rifle qualification, can't pass a PT test, can't pass weight and tape was a big one.
What's weight and tape?
So based on your height, you can weigh a certain amount.
Oh, so the tape means height. Because I figured...
Well, not exactly. So weight and tape is kind of a general term for meeting height and weight standards. If you bust weight, like say I'm 5'8".
Okay.
I think my max weight was 167. So if I go over 167, they break out the tape. And they're going to do a neck to waist ratio in inches and generate a body fat percentage. And you have to be below that, or you're not meeting the standard, and you could potentially get booted out.
Wow.
Yeah, and this happens more often actually in the active Army than it does at basic training.
Really?
Yeah, at basic training, your diet's so controlled, it's almost impossible to not make weight and tape. Like, you'd have to go in, grossly overweight, and at that point it's the recruiter's fault. They shouldn't have let you in, period.
Wow.
Yeah, my recruiter, he made me pass weight and tape before I even got on the plane. He made me pass a PT test before I even got on the plane. The only thing he couldn't judge me on was shooting. And he said, I've done everything I can. Shooting a rifle's on you.
Right.
So that's just an example of a poor recruiter. And recruiters, they got to meet those quotas. So they'll push a guy through that's 15, 20 pounds overweight, hoping he loses in 9 weeks and can still pass.
Right.
You can't blame them. They're under a lot of pressure.
Right.
So.
Dude, I couldn't imagine going home and telling my dad that, or my mom, but
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine going home and telling my parents that like I failed to conform in the military.
Yeah,
I'd
just
be
get
so
back at-
embarrassed. Like,
Yeah.
Mom, Dad, you raised a total I suck.
Yeah.
You know what I
I mean,
mean?
that's your motivation at basic too. If you're a big body guy, like you said before, the full metal jacket mentality comes into play. Drill sergeants will call you heavy. They will tell you you are a disgusting fat body and you need to lose weight. They'll PT you to death. They will try to get you through basic training because that's their job. It's not their fault the recruiter failed.
Yep.
They'll do whatever they can do to turn you into a soldier.
And it makes sense too that they have to do that because you have to be prepared for war.
Right.
Like, I don't understand this whole, because I've heard a lot of stuff about, they're making boot camp less intense and stuff like that. And I can't understand that because that's the whole point. What you're about to see is horrible.
Yep.
And you need to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That was my basic training. I had heard rumors about 4 years later about the mythical stress card. Supposedly they had this card and it was laminated. They kept it on their inside pocket of their blouse of their uniform. And at any given time, if you felt like you were just too stressed out, you could hand this card to a drill sergeant and you would be relieved from duties for whatever amount of time, an hour, 2 hours, until you felt you were ready to come back.
You got to be kidding.
No,
what the
dead
hell
serious.
are these people going to do when they're in the middle of a firefight?
Yeah, that's
You can't just
exactly.
go up to your enemy and say, hey, man, I'm really stressed out. Here's my card.
Well, and cell phones too. A lot of guys now, you'll see pictures on their Facebooks of basic training. Personally, I didn't see my cell phone at all. I saw it twice during basic training.
And that was probably to call home and say hi.
Yeah,
And that was
I
it.
I got to call home and say, "Hey, I made it here. I'm still alive." And then I had to hang up the phone. Drill sergeant breathing down my neck the whole time. The second time, unfortunately, we had a guy actually get through MEPS. Didn't realize he had some kind of a heart condition. We had a particularly hard day, and during a fire watch, some guy was going around checking on all the guys in the beds, making sure they were still there and okay. He comes out screaming, "This guy's dead. He's dead." We're like, what the hell is going on? So the drill sergeant comes running, and sure enough, some guy got in. I think he was about 27, 28, kind of old for an enlisted guy at basic. His heart stopped, like right in the middle of the night. Yeah, his family was pretty broken up about it. It was kind of an odd situation. You don't really see a lot. I actually attended my first military funeral at basic training.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a shock, but they gave us our phones after that day because I'm pretty sure it got leaked to the press one way or another.
Oh, really?
And they said, call your families, let them know you're alive.
Right.
So-
That's not their fault, though. I mean,
No,
nobody
it
knew
wasn't.
the guy had a heart condition.
No, MEPS should have caught it. I mean, they did a pretty good physical exam of us before we got in. I joked around with them. I ended up getting to the front of the line for the one-on-one doctor interview. And everybody at MEPS, they're like, hey, he's going to, stick a finger, up the rear to make sure nothing's wrong. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I ended up being the first guy to go in, and I did the exam. He did not do this, thank God. But as I walk out the door, I started holding on to my ass, and I'm kind of limping and grimacing, and I'm like,
So
oh
you're
my
fucking
God.
with everybody else.
Yeah, some guy, I got back in line. He's like, what the hell happened? I'm like, dude, that doctor has huge fingers. I mean, like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's sweating bullets. I mean, he's just losing it. So they send the next guy in, and he comes out, and he's flipping me the bird like, yeah, thanks a lot, asshole.
You had him
Like,
all
I probably just
scared.
failed my blood pressure test because of you.
Oh, that's great.
Good time.
So, now how long were you in boot camp? How long does boot camp go for?
10 weeks technically with 0 week. It's 9 weeks of training.
Okay, and then you have like a graduation ceremony afterwards, like in the
Yeah.
movies?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Family day the day before. We all marched in our dress uniforms. Got to go out for, I think we got like a 4-hour, 5-hour pass. You could go out with your family that was there with you. And then you had to report back. And that was pretty much the big graduation ceremony. We were up on stage. We went up individually, set our first and last names and our ranks. The only thing you don't really get a diploma, so to speak.
Right. Here's your Army diploma.
Yeah, exactly. They give you a ribbon, the Army service ribbon. It looks like a rainbow. Every single soldier in the U.S. Army has one.
Okay.
We had 3 ribbons, I think, at basic training. We got a National Defense Service Medal for enlisting during a time of conflict, an Army service ribbon, and there's a basic training graduation ribbon, if I'm not mistaken. Because I know we had 3 for sure. Because every award you get in the military is kind of ranked, and that's how you'll see a soldier's rack of awards put together based on what the highest award is. It'll be further to the top and to the left, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So
you get through. So okay, you're working at Radio Shack. You get fired. You decide I'm signing up for the military. Sign up for the military. Now you get through boot camp. What's your mindset at this point? Like,
I mean, at this point, we're getting on a bus and we're going to AIT. It's advanced individual training, basically learning your actual military job. Field artillery was short, 5 weeks. I mean, I could teach a monkey how to shoot a howitzer cannon. It's really not that complicated.
Was it fun though?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
At basic training, you get to shoot like the M16, the M249 SAW, squad automatic weapon, little light machine gun, belt fed 5.56, and then you get to shoot the 240 Bravo, which is belt fed 7.62. Those are considered crew serve weapons, but that's all. Well, no, I'm sorry. You do shoot the M203 at basic training, the underbarrel grenade launcher. And we fired some kind of a blank, like tracer round out of the AT-4 rocket launchers, anti-tank weapons. A couple of guys got to fire a live one. I was included because I had one of the best rifle qualification scores, so I got to shoot a live AT-4.
What was that like?
Oh, it's badass.
Yeah.
I mean, they had like a bunch of busted up cars and stuff out in the range. And the sight on this thing is real basic. It's just a open circle with a pin in the middle. So you're iron sighted, more or less. There's no digital targeting with an AT-4. You just let it go. It's got a damn good kill radius, like 60 meters, I want to say. Didn't even come close to the car when I shot it. But to be able to shoot a rocket launcher, being a 24-year-old guy.
Dude, that's the most badass thing ever.
Yeah, I've shot handguns, ARs, shotguns before this, but I mean, once you get there and you realize, like, I'm shooting high-grade weaponry.
Right.
It's pretty badass.
Right. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like rocket launchers, you see that shit in video games, you know what I mean? Like,
even
and then you're there
launcher.
with one on your shoulder just shooting it.
Yeah, heavy son of a bitch, too. It's probably like 30 pounds. The grenade launchers were a lot of fun. The 203 we were shooting dummy rounds out of, but I mean, still, you get to shoot a grenade launcher.
Right.
Like every guy dreams of this after they played a video game once in their life. They're like, I want to shoot this thing at live. I want to see what it does. So we did get to throw hand grenades live. That was a great time.
Was that scary?
Not really. The instructor screwed with me a little bit. A lot of people don't know, but pulling the pin on a grenade does not activate the fuse. It's got a safety grip. So it's set up almost like a fire extinguisher is the way that I looked at it. But you'd pull the pin, and as long as you held the safety, you haven't initiated the sequence that's going to make this grenade explode.
And the safety is that little lever that's on the side? Okay.
Yeah, looks like a little squeeze handle.
Okay.
So he tells me, he's like, all right, pick up your grenade. And I pick it up. He says, all right, pull your pin. And I pulled the pin, and he just kind of sat there. He's like, hey, you nervous yet? I'm like, no, I trust you. You wouldn't do anything because it'll kill you too.
Right.
He's like, oh, smart ass. And he's like, all right, throw your grenade. And I whipped it over the wall. We had one girl drop it straight up over the wall, didn't throw it more than 5 feet.
No.
Yeah. They dig a hole in the pits, like, as you're throwing the grenade, just in case. So if you drop that grenade, you get to get thrown into the pit with the instructor and hopefully not get your shit blown off. So,
oh my God. What's it like when a grenade goes off?
it was pretty far out that I threw mine. I heard it go off in the distance. We all got to see them. There was kind of an underground bunker that we were lined up waiting to take our turns, and you could see them out in the distance. They blow up,
Pretty good.
pretty decent fashion. Yeah, you could probably get 10 to 15 meters worth of shrapnel flying around.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now in feet, what's the radius in feet? I don't know the conversion for meters.
Oh, you'd be talking 45, 50 feet.
Wow, are you kidding me?
No, yeah, it should be able, a little bit of shrapnel will reach out that far. You won't do any significant damage outside of maybe 20 feet, but there's still a chance with an M67 frag that outside of 50 feet, you might still cause a little damage to it.
Wow. Wow. And you say, okay, so you say that this part of the training was, 5 weeks long?
I think we did grenades about 5 weeks. Or that was 5 weeks into basic, actually. AIT was 5 weeks long. That was week 1, just kind of in processing. Week 2, we did bigger crew serves. We did the 50 cal M2, the Madus, if you will. 50 cal belted full auto, mounted to a truck, or I think we actually shot them on tripods. You were sitting down and this thing was like, the equivalent of being in your lap as you were shooting it. That's a wild weapon to be able to fire and set up too. Then we shot the Mark 19 40 millimeter belt fed automatic grenade launchers.
Whoa.
Yeah, great time.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a weapon system that every guy wants to fire. You haven't lived until you shot an automatic grenade launcher.
Now, were those rounds live or were those?
Yeah,
dummy?
we shot live.
Yeah. Oh, that's badass, dude. That's badass. Wow. Okay. So you get through that 5 weeks. Now, how long between that 5 weeks and your deployment?
30 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, did you know when you were in that course that you were going?
Vaguely, yeah.
You had an idea?
About week 4, they issue your actual Army orders for your unit that you're going to be assigned to. Mine said 4th Brigade, 10th Mountain Division, Rear D, which is rear detention. If you're in a Rear D unit, there's only one of two possibilities. Either you're not going to deploy, or your unit is already deployed and you're still within the time window to be shipped over there. So when I deployed, it was maybe 60 days, I think, into their deployment. And when I got to my unit, I reported to the commander, saluted him, Private Manos reporting for duty, sir, as I was at the time. And the first words out of his mouth, you're deploying, right? I said, no, sir. But they warned me, the instructors at AIT, they said, your unit is deployed. We don't know when they deployed and we don't know where, but we know they are deployed. So there is a 50-50 shot that you're probably going to get sent overseas the second you get to Fort Polk.
Okay, so now when you find that out, where's your mind at?
That's the oh shit moment for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
like, oh shit, this is real.
Yeah, the second I got the orders, we had access to our cell phones at AIT after duty hours. It's more like the real active duty Army. We actually got like weekends off, and they kind of teach you how it's going to be in a general Army unit. So I called my dad and I said, Dad, my unit's already deployed. He said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I got my orders and I'm rear detention. So the unit is already gone. There's a small contingent of guys left at Fort Polk in the 4th Brigade, 10th Mountain that are still there in my unit, but it's for a reason. They're probably there because they had an injury during training. They're non-deployable for some reason. Or they just got selected for Rear D because you do need a small contingent of people to maintain things back on base while the unit's deployed.
Okay.
He says, so what does that mean? I said, well, it means I'm probably going to deploy. He said, wow. He's like, did you know it was going to be so soon? I said, of course not. I had no idea what I was signing up for. The first time I got a paycheck at basic training, I sent him a letter saying I was like, this isn't worth it. And I didn't realize like how poorly paid the military was. That was a shocker. But it's not as bad when you're deployed. It's tax free. You got combat pay. I mean, I probably grossed like 38,000 when I was deployed.
That's
like
not
that.
terrible.
Not for an E3.
Especially at what, 25 years old, 24 years old?
Yeah. I would have been working a dead at nothing job anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, I wasn't that mad about it. But, yeah, I told them, likely it means a deployment, and sure enough, it did. I reported to the commander. He made his statement, and he said, "Do you have any questions?" I said, "Can I ask when?" He's like, "You need about 30 days. We have to send you through a PowerPoint presentation about the Afghan culture and what to expect. You're going to spend probably a week doing that. You got another week of getting new gear." At the time, we were in ACUs, the gray and green digital camo. Deployment uniform was multicam, which is now the standard uniform for the Army. So we had to get a whole new set of gear. Week 3, I think we zeroed out our weapons one last time. And that 4th week was just getting a plane ticket and a passport and making sure everything was good to go for you to get on the plane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you find out you're getting deployed.
Mm-hmm.
And you say it's 30 days from the time you left the AIT school?
Yeah.
Okay. It's 30 days from AIT school to when you deploy.
Correct.
Now, in that 30 days, did you get to go home, or were you on a base? Or
I got to go home twice. Once right after AIT for a week. And I think I managed to pull off Christmas. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they gave me, I want to say 15 days.
So you deployed right after Christmas then?
Yeah. It was
about
mid-January, I think, by the time I was gone.
Okay. The day you got on the plane for Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Where was your head at? What were you thinking?
Made a lot of phone calls the day before that. Told everybody what was going on. Had to write a will. At the age of 25.
What was that like?
That's wild. Just the sheer realization that I own like nothing at the age of 25. I was like, oh, I don't have to will a house to anybody. I don't have a house. I guess, my best friend Hendrix, he gets my guitar. He gets the Xbox. I'll give my car to my little sister, and whatever's in my bank account can be divided amongst my family. Had to write our Soldier Group life insurance primary benefactor, split it evenly between my mom and my dad. That's $400,000.
Wow.
If you're killed overseas. So
wow.
Yeah, that one right there, I was like, wow. Yeah, I came home and I told my parents that I signed this form, and I'm like, I'm surprised you haven't bumped me off yet. Just for the payoff. $250K between the two of you, or 200K. Sorry.
That's a fat chunk of change, man.
Yeah. They got some benefits.
So you're on the plane. How long of a flight from here, or where were you when you left for Afghanistan?
I was at Fort Polk, Louisiana. Got on a plane in Alexandria, which was the smallest plane I've ever been on. Still had propellers on the front of it.
It was a prop plane.
Yeah,
you flew all the way to Afghanistan in a prop plane?
No. Thank God.
I was going to say, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, that's
the United States
ride.
military.
Yeah. We flew from Alexandria to Dallas Fort Worth. Got on a real plane, and 747, whatever it was. Went to Bangor, Maine, boarded a bigger commercial aircraft. I think it was like a double-decker aircraft, because there was probably 80 of us, at least, that were in the same boat I was. Just got out of basic, getting ready to deploy. And from there, London, England to refuel. Germany, where we had a layover. I got to spend like 3 days in Bathurst, Germany. They had to end up giving us hotel vouchers, and we got to spend a weekend there. Last time I saw a beer for a year. So
really,
yeah, good place to have one though.
Well, you're in Germany.
Yeah, and then from there we got to Manos Air Force Base in Kyrgyzstan, which is north of Afghanistan, pretty much by Russia, if I'm not mistaken. And we boarded a C-17. No, I can't remember the designation, but it might have been a C-17. It's basically an AC-130 minus the guns, like an AC-130 gunship.
Okay.
It's just a big, giant military aircraft. I mean, this thing had like a push-in row of seating. And if you weren't sitting on the sides of the plane, which luckily I was, the middle row of seating was still kind of free. Like you had a gap in between where the rack went in. So when the plane took off, it was like a roller coaster. They all went flying backwards like 10 feet, come to a slam stop. And when you land, they landed us at Fob Shank in Afghanistan, which was southeast in the country, right by the border of Pakistan, which is where I kind of ended up staying. But when they land, they do a combat landing. You don't want to come down in a real straight line, slow fashion in a large aircraft because you're RPG fodder. I mean, that was the number one attack point at Fob Shank was the flight line.
Really? So you would just be flying in and they'd be firing RPGs?
Mortars, RPGs. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anything they could get to try to disable an aircraft, basically.
Now, when you were flying in, did they shoot anything at you?
Yeah.
Really?
Day one. As soon as I got off the bird, sirens went off and incoming was coming in to the flight line. Mortars, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh my God.
They threw us into bunkers and it eventually all cleared. They really have no idea how to shoot that technology over there. You would think it's pretty basic, and it is, but there is a precision way to aim a mortar tube. But they don't. They just shoot it, see where it lands, and then they kind of adjust and try to walk them in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like they Kentucky wind it,
yeah,
basically.
Exactly. Yeah, that was about as advanced as the insurgency was, whatever you want to call them, the Taliban. I mean, we refer to them as Haji. I mean, as insensitive as that may be.
Hey, you know what? You're in the military.
Yeah, and it's a dehumanization process. It was no different than Vietnam with, gooks, whatever you want to call them. It was no different than the Krauts in World War II. Every enemy force has always had a nickname for the U.S. military.
You have to do that. You have to, because if the enemy has to be the enemy. They can't be like, oh, it's just that guy George over there. You know what I mean? No, you have to be like, I got to kill that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not even a guy. You have to eliminate that enemy. That is the proper terminology. I'm going to eliminate that enemy. I mean, you'll hear a lot of jokes like unalive that guy.
Unalive?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. But I mean, in terms of, the incoming coming down, at first, that's a big shock. Where I ended up going, it was fairly calm for the most part, but we took incoming every once in a while. You just get used to it. You hear the noise, you know how far away it is, you know how dangerous the situation might be. I would sleep through it by probably 3 months into country.
Oh my God, you're sleeping through mortar attacks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. Dude, all right, I'll tell you what. Me in that situation, I'm shitting my pants 24/7. I mean, I'm sure I could handle it, but dude, I'd be scared the whole fucking time. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'd be scared the whole time.
I mean, it's nerve-wracking. Homesickness is the worst of it by far.
Yeah.
That and where I landed, you go to your, FOB, a forward operating base. It's a nice big built-up area. Fob Shank had like a Burger King, if I'm not mistaken, like a Pizza Hut on it. Which is, a lot of people during this Afghan withdrawal were talking about Bagram Air Force Base and why it got abandoned. And I can tell you, I spent maybe a week and a half at Bagram, waiting to go back home. It is legitimately the safest place in Afghanistan.
Well, maybe it was.
Yeah, not anymore. It's probably occupied by the Taliban. But I mean, at the end of the day, like they did, I know for sure because I ate Burger King at Bagram Air Force Base. Burger King is one of those staples of the military. If you go on any military base, there's always a Burger King. They just prefer Burger King over McDonald's or Taco Bell. I think it's something to do with like licensing or something, or they buy like the rights to be on a military base. Okay. It was always like when you go into a PX, a military mall, there's always a food court. and it's always a combination of like a Taco Bell, a Burger King, a Subway, some pizza joint, and a place called Charlie's that made like really good grilled Philly cheesesteaks.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they had some decent food actually. But
now, did you? This might be a stupid question because I don't know exactly how the military works. But did you get a chance to eat any Afghan food?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you really?
Yeah, we had Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police on the COP with us, a combat outpost. I wound up at Syedabad. The Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police, being Muslim culture, they don't eat our food. They eat what is basically equivalent to like a kosher diet. No pork. Not real big on beef, but just because it's not really in abundance out there.
Right, you can't raise cattle in the desert.
Yeah, it's a lot of goat and lamb. You'll catch beef occasionally, but not very often. They're big on kebabs, tabbouleh, flatbread they called naan. We actually had a guy on our combat outpost that set up a little naan shop. And for like 50 cents, he would give you what was like the equivalent of a large pizza crust. And they'd cook it in this oven that was like underneath the ground. It's kind of neat, actually, the way they did it. And they made it with like goat cheese inside, goat meat. You get one that was like a sweet bread that was covered in sesame seeds, and one that was just like real basic, but it was bomb ass food.
It was good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, they know how to cook over there. Yeah, they because they didn't eat our diet, they would get like shipments of firewood and stuff in so they could do their cooking.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
So now, did you interact with? Because you said you had Afghan army.
Yeah.
Did you interact with those people?
Personally? The Afghan National Army, a little bit here and there. I got assigned with a section chief to train Afghan National Army to shoot an old 120 millimeter Russian artillery piece at a different compound. So that we got to go out there and actually train them how to shoot a howitzer the proper way.
Wow.
Yeah, and they adapted to it fairly well, but I highly doubt that training stuck.
Really?
Interpreters seem to be few and far between where I was, so there was a big communication barrier.
Oh, they didn't understand you, and you didn't understand them.
Yeah, there was hardly anybody there that spoke even better than broken English.
Wow.
Yeah, I interacted with the Afghan National Police more than the Afghan National Army. We had a guard tower that we were assigned on the COP, and we pulled guard shift with the Afghan National Police Force. Okay. So we would always have somebody up in the tower with us pulling a shift.
Okay.
Yeah, they liked to fall asleep. They were lazy as shit. Most of them had no idea how to operate their weapons. I recall cleaning a couple of guys' AKs more than once.
Really?
Just because I'd never seen a full auto AK until I got to Afghanistan. I mean, these are like old Russian
Soviet
AKs.
Style AKs.
Yeah, they're not brand new technology. These are 1980s and back.
Wow.
Which says a lot for the AK platform, though.
Survive the desert.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could drop these things in dust, mud, pour sand down the barrel. You know, do whatever you want to it. If you slap 30 rounds in it and hold the trigger, you're firing 30 rounds.
Wow.
Yeah, they're a nice little piece of machinery.
You got to hand it to the Russians.
Yeah.
I'm not a communist, okay, but they build some good guns, man.
Yeah, it's the most popular, rifle build in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Probably second only to the AR. The AR is probably more prevalent in the States, but in every other civilized country in the world, the AK is bar none, the rifle that's issued.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, you're on a base.
Yep.
Now, is that around a town? Is that in a city?
It's pretty close to a village that's actually Syedabad.
Okay, so it was Syedabad.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
Syedabad, Afghanistan, and Logar Wardak province, Afghanistan. It's all provinces out there. We were right on the border of Pakistan, if I'm not mistaken. It was like dead on the border of Pakistan.
Okay.
Yeah, which is where a lot of that stuff comes from. Materials for bombs, enemy, fighters. They pretty much seem to stem from Pakistan, from what our intelligence was telling us anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was probably about mile and a half, 2 miles off base. You could see it from Signal Guard Towers. You could literally see the village.
Did you ever get to go into the village? And
Me personally, no.
No.
We never patrolled out there. It was a fairly calm area out in the village. I think our presence out there really staved off a lot of the enemy fighters from trying to gain a foothold there. It was just too close. We could range it with a howitzer. It was actually probably outside of minimum range of a howitzer cannon. But we had close air support. We had infantry battalions. We had a special forces group on the COP. Hell, they probably could have rode out there in doom buggies and subdued an enemy force.
So you guys were basically protecting this town then?
Yeah, more or less. There was a valley that our infantry patrolled almost on a daily basis. It was called the Tangi Valley. I personally never drove through there, but I had heard stories from the infantry that was a nasty, nasty area.
Really?
Our howitzers, we had 3 of them on the compound, and they were constantly pointed in that direction, especially the 155 millimeter gun. We had M777 155 millimeter howitzer and 2 M119ers. Those are 105 millimeter cannons, and constantly pointed in the direction of the Tangi Valley. That's where everything was stemming from.
Wow.
Yeah, you hear about like the Korengal. There was that movie Restrepo that was real popular. That's the Korengal Valley. That was considered the most dangerous area in Afghanistan. I think the Tangi Valley was like a close second.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So you're like, I mean, the area we're at, you said it was calm, but it was like, at the same time, it was no joke.
Oh, no, not at all. Yeah, we had compounds close to us. Shout out to the guys from Cop Kirwar that were attacked almost on the daily. And it was funny. We ended up having an incident at our compound involving the firewood trucks. Enemy got real smart. They realized that this truck full of firewood was getting through checkpoints fairly easily. So one day they hijacked one. They took all the wood out, loaded it with 2,700 pounds worth of homemade explosives, and then put the firewood back over the top of it.
Holy shit,
yeah,
dude.
They drove it into our compound and detonated. Their goal apparently was to blow a hole in the T-walls, like big concrete walls, and then drive a second truck inside the compound and detonate again.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was at the time when they hit us with it, it caused 92 casualties or 88. It was the single largest casualty producing event in the history of the Afghan campaign at the time. And this was 9/11/2011.
Were you there when that happened?
Yeah, absolutely.
You were there when, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, that was toward the tail end of our deployment, if I'm not mistaken.
What the hell were you like?
I remember somebody yelling incoming. I was sitting on a howitzer cannon, felt the blast wave. We had a couple of guys out at the gym at the time, and that was our initial thought was, oh God, we got to find, these 2 guys, because it detonated pretty close to the gym. It was right at like the first checkpoint. They injured 88. They killed 4 local nationals, but didn't kill any U.S. personnel. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was all over CNN. We had mild access to internet and a satellite phone. Apparently, the story broke on CNN like not even 3 hours after the attack.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got online and got a hold of my folks, and they're like, "Hey, what the hell happened? We see this on the news. Like, isn't this where you are?" And we weren't really supposed to divulge that kind of information. So I said, I can't really tell you anything, but yeah, we were attacked and yeah, I'm fine.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty nasty. The second truck apparently drove to the wrong compound, drove his truck into Cop Chark, if I'm not mistaken, it was called. And they took a pretty decent hit too, but not even close to the damage they caused us out about it. They hit us right at chow time. And they drove it in the general direction of the chow tent, which was destroyed. Everything on that side of the compound was leveled. I mean, like something you'd see out of a movie, mushroom cloud. There's somebody yelled the incoming, and I just thought, incoming what? Scud missiles? Like, I really, really hope that's not incoming. It turned out to be a suicide bomber. It's kind of their MO.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That is like, dude, that's probably like the most heavy duty story I think I've ever heard. Like, I'm not, wow. I'm blown away. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, that was shocking. That was the first big major attack they hit us with, and pretty much the last one, because once that popped off, it was fair game. I think we shot 2,000 some odd rounds in combat. Most of them after that event. We started really, really ramping up pressure, trying to subdue any kind of secondary attack while we were rebuilding. So,
holy shit, man. So you guys, like, now after they suicide bombed you, was there a battle that followed, or was it just...
No, yeah, fortunately they diverted that other truck to some other area. We pulled guard shifts 24 hours a day after that, on and off. Everybody was manning guard towers because we were pretty short. I think there was probably 200 of us on the cop. So you're talking 88 down. We're operating at 60%, 50% effectiveness. I mean, all kinds of people with real bad injuries. There were a lot of Purple Hearts that came out of Syedabad. Yeah, we got a combat action badge out of that. It's basically a badge if you're engaged by or engaged the enemy. Cop Kirwar, even though they were attacked every day, there were a couple of guys that paperwork-wise didn't get it filed correctly and never got a combat action badge out of it. I mean, they got screwed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's kind of bragging rights, like when you got that badge on your chest. Like, that's
and you at least deserve the badge.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's worth promotion points. I think at the time it was like 40 promotion points, which is huge because when you're trying to make non-commissioned officer, you need those points.
Right.
And that 40 points right there can make or break you for your next rank. So yeah, there's a lot of things like that, you know, that can go wrong, and a soldier doesn't get the recognition they deserve and really get screwed out of some rank.
Oh man, that's so terrible to hear. Yeah. Especially when you go through hell like that. That is just absolutely terrible to hear. That's disappointing.
Yeah, we felt the same way. I mean, when we got back, we were getting them pinned on our chests, the combat action badges, and you just saw this like small contingent of guys in the unit that were off to the side, like hanging out, not getting theirs, and it was disheartening. I mean, they deserved a lot more than they got.
Oh my God. Yeah, that is shame on you, U.S. military. Shame on you.
Yeah, it's a lot of politics that goes into awards. I mean, you got like a second lieutenant that'll do a deployment and get a Bronze Star just for being over there. When us enlisted guys got back, I got like an Army Achievement Medal, I think, which is like the bare bones. Like you get an Army Achievement Medal for scoring well on a PT test.
Right.
So it's about rank. It's about time and grade, time and service. Like higher ranks get higher awards. That's all there is to it.
Now, lighten it back up a little bit. That was heavy, man. Wow. That was heavy.
Yeah.
So how long was your deployment? How long were you there?
I was there 10 months. The other guys that were there, because I got there late, they were there a full year.
Now, when your deployment ended, was that they just, because obviously, you know, they didn't pull forces until like a couple months ago, but like,
right.
Why did your deployment end?
At the time, it was some kind of a time limit the Army had put on after the whole stop loss policy from Iraq. You had some guys that were out there getting stop loss, and they were deployed in Iraq for 15 months straight. The Army had a policy that no soldier was supposed to do more than 12 months, and you actually got mid-tour leave during a deployment. So you'd get like a free 15 days worth of leave where you'd go home, and then you'd have to report back to the country.
Okay.
So the reason that my unit left is just because they hit the time limit. Like I didn't get mid-tour leave because I got there late. I did 10 months straight. That was one of the first experiences getting to Fob Shank. I met First Sergeant DeVille. Great guy, awesome. One day if he listens, he'll know that's top. But I met him and he said, "Don't even ask me about mid-tour leave because you ain't getting it." I mean, I think he was straight from Louisiana, had a real thick Southern accent. I said I wasn't even going to ask. He's like, "Yeah, that's probably for the best." He's like, you're gonna do 10 months straight, and that's all there is to it. I'm like, all right, it is what it is. So,
now, did you only did one tour of duty?
Yeah.
Okay. So you spent 10 months of your life in Afghanistan.
Yep.
What the fuck is that country like? Like just the country itself.
It's
know what
dry.
I mean?
It's weird. Contrary to popular belief, it's not a desert.
No?
No, 4 seasons. Absolutely. I
Really?
got there in early February and I was knee deep in snow. One of my first memories was getting tackled by a couple of guys in the unit, duct taped to the tube of the M777 howitzer, the big one. Then they proceeded to raise me up on the tube and throw snowballs at me. It's kind of a artillery rite of passage.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's
That's
all
great.
it's all in good fun. They'd call it hazing now,
Right.
unfortunately, but I mean, it's just something we all did. It was good fun.
I did not know that. I honestly thought it was just a shithole desert country.
Yeah, a lot of people do. It's reminded me a lot of Colorado. I spent like a year in Colorado Springs at Fort Carson. But the landscape out there, mountainous, valleys here and there, not a lot of water.
Yeah, my understanding of it is it's like a really heavy mountainous terrain.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why it's so hard to get those people, is because that terrain is just crazy.
Well, they know it a lot better than you do, too. I mean, they've lived there their whole lives.
Right.
They know all the nooks and crannies. They know the valleys. They know the routes through the mountains to be able to, move effectively. It's really not good policy to try to do dismounted patrols in the Army. It's needed sometimes, but in Afghanistan, you'd rather be in up armored vehicles rolling around.
Really?
It's really hard to do, though. Not a lot of good routes out there for that.
Because they'll just ambush you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
roadside bombs. If you're mounted, you got a pretty good chance of surviving it. We had MRAPs and MATVs, big up armored vehicles with heavy armor plating in the bottom, designed to take blasts from IEDs, even to the point where like the undercarriage of the truck is triangular, so if a blast hits, it'll kind of deflect the blast out to the sides of the vehicle instead of blowing straight through the hole and killing you like the Humvees.
Wow.
Yeah, so but yeah, in terms of the actual terrain out there, I think I was at 7,200 feet on my cop where we were at.
Elevation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Altitude sickness sucked. It hit me for the first probably week I was there. I mean, hard to breathe. You feel dead tired. You adapt to it pretty quick, but it does take a minute to get used to.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. Now, so okay. Obviously, I don't want to get too heavy. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask any bad questions or anything. But so you do your 10 months. Now, how do you find out that you're going home? Do they give you discharge papers or?
Yeah, they you kind of know when the next unit is coming in. We spent, I want to say, about a month with the 1st Armored Division. They came in to take over Syadabad when we were leaving. When they got there, it was kind of like the relief period. Like, oh, thank God, somebody else is here to do this shit for a year.
Was it? Not to cut you off, but
yeah.
You've seen Band of Brothers, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, in Band of Brothers, where you've got the group of guys that have been in it for like 3 years, and then you get the group of newbies, and they come in and they're all like raring to go. Was it like that, or no? Was it really?
Yeah. They, their spirits are high. They heard about the attack, the big bomb that hit us. But they seemed like they were generally in pretty good spirits. We built the area up for them. Our gun line, like, we probably live better than anybody else on the COP.
Really?
We built ourselves a dining facility. We had a small arms range right on the other side of our compound, surrounded by HESCO walls, big barriers. We even had, I spent probably the first 4 months of the deployment in a tent. And then we had a B hut, they called it, hauled in. It was basically like a double long, double wide trailer. And we 2-man roomed it, had working air conditioning for maybe 2 months before it died. But it was definitely pretty built up for what they had. Everybody else, for the most part, was still living in tents.
So you were there when it was hot then? Because you said you
yeah.
showed up, when you showed up, there was snow on the ground.
Yeah, I caught pretty much all of the seasons there, really. Tail end of winter, spring, summer, and coming back into fall, because I didn't leave there until late November, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe early November. I think I got back before Thanksgiving.
Was the summer just ridiculously hot?
It wasn't
No?
as bad as you'd think. I think midday in July it would hit probably 85, 90.
Oh, so like
Yeah.
around here then.
Yeah, real dry. No humidity out there at all. When it rained, it rained. But we saw dust storms almost on a bi-weekly basis. I mean, you see dust devil tornadoes 30 feet high. It was actually kind of cool to see.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So now you find out, you got a good sense you're going home. How are you feeling? You excited? You ready to go?
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, you get 2 weeks of free leave when you get back, so you know you're going home at a certain point. We got back, got the free 2 weeks, and then not even 2 weeks later was Christmas, so we got another 15-day block of leave.
Nice.
So we didn't do jack shit. We got back, turned in our multi-cam gear, and we did, what do they call it? It's some kind of reintegration training, if you will. They know, like, you've been over there for so long in a combat environment that you might not really adapt back to the civilian style of life real quick. Even when you're on a military base, you still got your family there. You still have to interact with people again. You're out in the population. They want to make sure you're not in that, war mindset
mode,
anymore.
right.
Yeah, so they break you down a little bit again, let you relax for a good 60, 90 days, I think was like the decompression period.
So you get home from your deployment. Now, does that mean that your service is over, or are you still involved in the military in some way?
No, yeah, still active duty.
Now, how long did that last?
Still had another 4 years left on the contract.
So what did you have to do, like National Guard work?
No, not at all.
I don't
active.
take that as an insult.
No,
I don't.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, active duty Army life. When you're back in garrison, you're working 5 days a week. We worked from sun up till sundown. Our unit was old school. We trained.
Oh, you just trained.
Yeah, we got back, had to do a PT test almost immediately. And then we did a rifle qualification. You have to do it every 6 months. It's almost like, truck drivers renewing their CDLs. Like, eventually you're going to have to recertify as a soldier and make sure that you're still physically fit. There's always some, regulation, some standard you're going to have to meet. So we train 5 days a week, PT in the morning, clean up the motor pool on Mondays, do some kind of field artillery training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Friday was generally kind of laid back, just cleaning everything up, and then you had the weekends off.
Wow.
Yeah, wasn't too bad.
And that was 4 more years of that?
About 2.5, 3.
Okay.
Then we came up on another deployment, and they were drawing down the force at that point under Obama. They told me I could either re-enlist for another 4 years and deploy, or they would cut my ETS date early, which is your end term of service. So I asked them if I could extend and do another deployment, but they told me it wasn't an option at that point. And I ended up getting out, and they cut my ETS date short by probably 1.5 years, I think.
Wow. Now, if you don't mind me asking, why did you want to stay in? Why did you want to go back? You like it?
Part of it was the fact that I've been with that unit the entire time. Like, these guys.
So it's like a brotherhood thing?
Yeah, and I was training soldiers at this point. Like, I had guys underneath of me that looked up to me, and I was pretty high speed in the unit. I ended up getting pegged as a first sergeant's driver. I drove the commander of the battery. I drove the battalion commander around.
Wow.
I was really good at my job, ranked up pretty fast. But at the end of the day, I wanted to deploy because I didn't want to leave those guys, back out there by themselves. Just the thought of leaving them behind kind of sucked.
That's incredible, man. That is incredible. That's selfless. That's incredible.
It's kind of the mentality you have to have going in. I mean, if you go in for the pay, you're going in for the wrong reason, period. Like you've been around these same group of guys for 2 years, 3 years. A couple of them were still there from the original attack in Afghanistan that I went through, and to think that they had to go back over there without me was heartbreaking. I mean, I won't lie. I cried when I was up in front of the formation, like I was getting out. They hadn't deployed yet, and they asked me to say a few words, and I just said, trust your leaders. Keep your heads down out there. Don't get stupid. But I mean, at that point, I was shedding tears.
Wow.
Yeah, had to. All right, it's rough getting out. A lot of guys, like, you always get asked that question, like, why did you get out? And there's never a good answer for it. Some guys will tell you they were starting a business, or they were getting married, or I just want to be a family man again. But at heart, they're all still soldiers. You'll never lose that mentality.
That's incredible, man. That is incredible. That kind of renews my faith in people a little bit, that someone can be that selfless.
It takes a lot to be, in that environment for as long as you are. Like, it's a whole different mentality than civilian life. It almost makes you bitter in a way. Like, I worked a job after I got out at Time Warner Cable in Colorado, and I was a tech support guy. And I'll never forget, like, having customers in my line saying things like, I can't live without my cable TV. It's like, oh my God, you have no
idea. Oh, yeah. Man.
Which, I mean, you see like the political landscape now, and everybody's saying, these things like the police forces are out of control, and, we need all this government spending for this and that. It's like, you have no clue how good you have it in the States. The United States is free, it's fair, and everybody has the same chance to be successful. And anybody who says otherwise is just delusional, period.
You heard it here first, folks. That's coming straight from a member of the U.S. military. Former member?
Yeah.
Former member of the U.S. military. Take it seriously. That's... wow, dude. Wow. So now you're back in civilian life. Was it shocking?
First, kinda.
Yeah. You had a hard time. Did you have a hard time adjusting?
Yeah, and I mean, even still to this day, I mean, there's still little things that civilian wise at work that'll still drive you insane. Like, I work at a nursing facility now as a maintenance director, and just seeing like somebody at a base level position get insubordinate with a leader. And my first thought is, God, I wish I could just like give you an entrenching tool and make you dig a 6-foot hole out in the dirt for no apparent reason, and then look at you sideways and be like, why the hell did you dig that hole? And, like, what are you doing? Fill that hole back up. Like, there were 2 punishments in the Army. They would either mess with your pay or they'd make you do extra duty. We called it a 45-45. It was like a month-and-a-half long period of filling sandbags and doing real shit details.
Oh, God.
And then they would also cut your paycheck in half for 45 days, which equated to 3 military paychecks. So I'm a firm believer that if they would institute this in civilian life, the United States would be the largest producer of every good known to man. Like, nobody would step out of line. Nobody would just, slack off at the job, because the second they did it and you start messing with their paychecks, or you're having them do this extra work for, half the pay, they're not going to screw up again.
Right.
And in the military, if you screwed up again after that, you were gone. That was it. And personally, I think that's how it should be in the civilian world.
I can agree with that, because in the trade that I work in, I got to be real careful about how I say this. A lot of the younger guys, and I will admit this too, when I was young, I was the same way.
Yeah.
But a lot of the younger guys that don't have the experience and the knowledge think they're worth what the older guys are worth, and they're not.
Yeah,
and they cry and they complain, and it's like, dude, you don't know what it takes to make that level of money. Right.
Yeah, they. I mean, I'll say the same thing. Like, even in a broader term, this whole generation of $15 an hour minimum wage, and the general lack of a work ethic is disheartening, to say the least. And it's such a feeling of entitlement that they have. Like, I got this job, you owe me this wage. I don't owe you anything.
Right.
As an employer, personally, I even think minimum wage laws are pretty ridiculous. All it's going to lead to is more inflation.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with you. My only thing with the minimum wage is I can understand their point coming from the perspective of the cost of living.
Sure.
Because, dude, when milk is, I don't know what it is right now because I haven't bought a gallon of milk in a while. But when a gallon of milk is $3.50 or $4 a gallon, and you're making $9 an hour, that fucking sucks.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But that's about the only area that I can relate with that. Other than the other thing too is, and this has been kind of a change in thinking on my part, is that there's no reason why a company like Amazon or, I can understand McDonald's not paying $15 an hour, because here's the thing people don't get about that. Your local McDonald's is not owned by some big fucking corporation in wherever McDonald's is located.
No, yeah. Generally some franchise.
Your local McDonald's is owned by some dude that more than likely lives in the community. Yes, he makes more money than you do by a long shot.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not McDonald's. That guy has to pay his employees. He owns the store. The only thing that McDonald's Corporation has to do with that store is they give you the menu, the name, the architecture.
Yeah.
You're franchising. Okay?
Right. Yeah,
So-
franchise is nothing wrong with that at all, and I don't disagree with the franchise owner getting paid more than the general employee. He's got a better knowledge of business than somebody else, which effectively, equates to a higher wage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of starting a business, whether it's a franchise or whatever. You want to make more money than that guy over there. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But these people just don't understand that the guy that you're working for is the guy that's paying you.
Yeah,
McDonald's Corporation just gives that guy the rights to the name.
Yeah, and this kind of goes into the attack on the higher class that you see now with this Build Back Better Act. You hear all this like paying their fair share. I don't want to side with the billionaires, but the billionaires pay probably 70% of the tax liability to the United States.
Right.
How much more do you want them to pay?
Right.
And at the end of the day, going back to almost the minimum wage laws, if you raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, that CEO at the top isn't going to, see that earnings statement and say, oh, well, I'm helping the employees. He's going to say my profit margin went down.
Yep.
So how am I going to recoup that cost? He's going to raise the cost of goods, and he's going to raise the cost of transportation. He's probably going to cut hours of the employees.
Yep. That's basic economics.
Yeah, they'll find a way to do it. That is what I think the new generation doesn't understand about minimum wage laws. Yeah, there should be some kind of a standard of living for everybody, but the equity argument that is coming about is just not realistic.
No, it's not.
You don't put in equal effort, you shouldn't get an equal outcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we kind of went on a tangent there for a minute.
A little bit.
So okay, so you did your time in Afghanistan and you're back in civilian life. Time goes by. Oh, here's one question I wanted to ask you. Did you have to have any experiences with the VA?
Me personally, not really. I got out with all 4 limbs, all 10 digits. I never made a VA claim.
Okay. So that's not something you do unless you're injured or have PTSD?
It shouldn't be. But there is a culture of false VA claims. You'll hear a lot of stories from guys about the VA being slow on everything. It's because they're backlogged with bogus claims. I knew a couple of guys in my unit alone that were claiming knee and back pain. they'd walk around in canes during the workday, and then I'd see them at the bar dancing their asses off, with the whatever stripper they picked up out of the club. It's sad to see. A lot of guys will abuse that system.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Okay, so time goes by, and here we are in 2021. President Biden decides he wants to look like a hero, essentially. I'm convinced that's what that was.
I agree.
I'm convinced that, and I think that's the same thing as all the push about the coronavirus. It's Donald Trump screwed it up. This is them saying it, not me. Donald Trump screwed it up.
Right.
Now we're going to look like the heroes and fix it, and we don't give a damn how we do it. We just want to look like heroes.
Yeah. I mean, that goes to the deadline, the infamous 9/11 deadline.
And that deadline is kind of what made me come up with that line of thinking, is like, okay, you wanted this symbolic victory
exactly.
on 9/11.
Yeah.
And in turn, you left us with egg on our face.
Yeah, big time.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We look like idiots.
Yeah, especially to our allies. I mean, for all the talk of the SIV holders, the American citizens that got left behind, just to think of the Afghan National Army that I personally work with, not having close air support and not having U.S. military intelligence, not having those resources anymore. Everybody wonders why Kabul fell in a week. It's because we were pulling out. We didn't give them the close air support anymore. We didn't have intelligence for them on the ground. They had no clue what was about to happen to them.
They just got overrun.
Yeah,
basically.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have close air support, you have no business being in Afghanistan.
Wow.
Their hit and run tactics, their ability to hide in the landscape and hit you and be able to run without you being able to attack them. It's why the Russians were pushed out of Afghanistan back in the 80s. It's guerrilla warfare. They've done it since bin Laden was the leader of the Mujahideen. He decimated the Russian forces to the point where they just took too many casualties and realized it wasn't worth it to be there anymore. And I mean, at the end of the day, that deadline was ridiculous on its face because it was the anniversary of 9/11, and like you said, he was looking for that hero moment.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
That's exactly what it was. It was just, again, look at me. The other, I guess in the case of Afghanistan, the other 4 presidents before me screwed everything up.
Yeah.
Look at us. We're going to fix this. Look at how heroic we are.
Oh, it's funny that they use that line too, that, the previous administrations were failing. We weren't failing. There wasn't a single combat death in Afghanistan in the last year and a half. We only had 2,000 troops on the ground, maybe 4,000. I can't remember the figure, but I mean, when I was there, we had at least a footprint of 15 to 20,000 guys.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, that was still at the point where we were stabilizing the region. I was literally in Afghanistan when bin Laden was caught and killed.
Really?
Yeah. I had friends of mine hit me up on Facebook like, are you coming home now? Like, of course I'm not coming home.
What was it like in Afghanistan when that happened?
It seemed to get real quiet for a minute there. Everybody seemed to kind of disperse back into their little groups, and they hid almost for maybe 30 days, 60 days. I attribute a lot of the quiet time in my deployment to bin Laden's death. They were pretty shook up over it. A lot of people, the conspiracy theory, it wasn't really bin Laden. They dumped this body off the side of the boat in the ocean somewhere. They didn't want him to be a martyr, and they were big on that. Right outside of my compound, not even 250 feet to our north, there was a hill, and it had flags all over it. And I asked intelligence guy that was there. He was part of the Air Force. Can't remember his name, but I asked him, what's up with the flags up there? He's like, oh, those are grave sites. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, we call that Graveyard Hill. It was basically holy sites to them of, lost fighters during the fight against us. So they would have absolutely, had we handed his body over to the Afghan people, there would be a Mecca in Afghanistan for terrorists. They would congregate there. They would communicate there. It'd be a target-rich environment for us. It'd be real stupid to hang out there for too long, but that's why we dumped him. We didn't want a place for them to, recognize their leader as a martyr. He was what he was. He was a brutal terrorist that needed to be wiped off the face of the planet.
Agreed.
Had we given them that opportunity, they would have only rallied around it.
Oh, man. Man, I am like learning some shit tonight. Like, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you go back and you think, well, I mean, it's different for you, but for me, not being there,
Yeah.
I go back and I remember hearing about when, I almost said Obama, Freudian slip, when bin Laden was killed,
Yeah.
and just kind of thinking like, oh, well, all right, he's dead.
It didn't seem like that unifying moment that it should have been.
You're right. Absolutely. It was just like, South Park did an episode about it.
Yeah.
We got him.
Yeah, that was a great episode. And that was Obama's first term, was it not?
I believe it was. Yes. Those are some hazy years for me. Those were the post high school years. So those are a little.
It was
little
2010. He was reelected in 2012, so it had to have been his first term.
Yep.
I remember now President Biden standing behind him, and it was funny because there's that famous quote from Obama saying, "Never underestimate Joe's ability to fuck shit up." And he apparently was the sole voice of opposition in the room when it came down to making the decision to raid the Pakistani compound that housed bin Laden.
Biden was the
Biden
opposition?
was the sole voice of opposition in the room. Everybody else was in agreement. This
Why the
is
hell?
the place.
Why the hell would he be like, no, dude, that's not it. No.
I don't know if it's this innate sense that he has to go against the grain. I personally attribute it to utter incompetence. The guy is a doddering fool. He continues to show you day in and day out that he has no understanding of military operations. And it boils down even into his administration, like General Milley, the Joint Chief of Staff, putting out this woke reading list for the United States military about transgenderism. And
isn't he the same clown that called up the Chinese and was like, we're not going to bomb you?
Oh, no. Yeah, I think he, what is it that he said to him? If we were going to bomb you, we would tell you.
Yeah.
I'm
so
pretty
what's
sure
the point
you
of
wouldn't.
bombing them then?
Yeah. Yep. They, if you give the Chinese military that kind of intel, they would decimate the mainland before we even got a chance to press a red button.
I can't believe that man's not in prison for that.
No, it is borderline treasonous is what it is.
I would say it's beyond borderline treason.
Yeah.
You know what I
probably
mean?
right.
Like you called the enemy and you told them that we got you, dude.
Yeah.
Who the hell calls their enemy and says, bro, I got you?
Our administration would love to right now.
What the hell are you people doing?
The sympathy toward the Chinese cause is just becoming more and more realized by the public, I think. I hope, anyway. After this last meeting with Xi Jinping, whatever his name is, the president of China.
Xi Jinping.
Yeah, thank you. He apparently told Joe Biden that if we were to intervene in an attack against Taiwan, that it wouldn't be a good thing for the United States to do.
Yeah, I heard about that. I question that, though. Here's why. He probably said that.
Sure.
But that was the report from the Chinese state media. Our report said, and granted, you can't trust those assholes either.
No.
But our report said that it was just a call about climate change. Okay. The Chinese state media is going to tell the Chinese people, we threaten the Americans. Look at how big our balls are. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
In secrecy, in the actual conversation was like, I don't like you. Well, I don't like you either. Well, you're an old idiot. Well, you're a commie. You know what? That's probably what that whole conversation was.
I wouldn't doubt it. I don't think, now President Biden has the competency to make an argument.
No, I don't think he does either. I think
if he was challenged on the world stage, he would fold and, bury his face in his hands like he's done before in previous interviews with even the United States, softball media
Right.
that treats him like a little kid.
I think his presidency is proof positive, as if we needed any more proof positive. But I think his presidency is proof positive that the president doesn't mean jack shit.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, on his face, he's, a lot
that
less
guy
important than he actually is.
That guy ain't running shit.
No, absolutely
He's not running anything. No. That guy is chilling out in the Lincoln bedroom of the White House, to quote Ben Shapiro, watching Matlock and eating ice cream. Okay, that guy's not running anything.
No, and it's so clear when you see him do an interview with a press conference, and he pulls out the list.
Yeah.
I have been instructed to call on so and so from NBC.
Right.
And he to the point where he can't even remember these people's names.
Right.
Like he didn't even remember the president of Australia's name. Called him his buddy from down under. I mean, he's just an absolute train wreck.
Now, in one regard, I kind of feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, same.
Because I hope to God when I'm in my mid-70s and losing it, because I have a history of dementia in my family, so I'm probably going to lose it.
Yeah.
When I'm at that age and I'm losing it, I pray to God I'm not on television making an ass out of myself on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they've really trotted him out there and just made him the whipping boy.
But in the other regard, I don't feel bad for you because you've been a piece of garbage for your entire political career.
Yeah,
so.
he's never brought forward any piece of legislation that positively affected the United States. The 1994 crime bill.
I was just going to bring that up. Yep.
I mean, an absolute joke.
For people who don't know what the 94 crime bill is, you can explain it, right?
Vaguely.
You want me to look it up?
Yeah,
right,
just to get the details of it to be accurate. If I'm not mistaken, it had something to do with the war on drugs.
I believe so, and I think I'm going to look it up, but if I'm not mistaken, I think it had something to do with incarcerating minorities over.
Yeah, that infamous 3-strike rule, I believe, was in the 1994 crime bill. Even 3 minor offenses equal a felony or something to that effect.
Oh, here we go. 1994 crime bill and beyond. I don't want that. That's federal funding.
Yeah, I was going to say, check the source.
Oh, okay, here. This is according to Google now. Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994, commonly referred to as the 1994 Crime Bill, the Clinton Crime Bill, or the Biden Crime Law, is an act of Congress dealing with crime and law enforcement. Oh, that doesn't tell me shit.
It's pretty vague.
Thanks, Wikipedia. Hold on.
Yeah, you'd have to break it down pretty thoroughly to get to the guts of what he authored, because he was the primary author of the 1994 crime bill. Which,
basically, he was it. If you ever hear anybody call Biden a racist, it's because of the 94 crime bill.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That and the numerous slips on camera. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Did you hear about his most recent one? The Great Negro? I forget who he was talking about. Oh shit, now I gotta pull this shit up. Where's YouTube?
Yeah, I would play the clip. I'm interested. I haven't heard
You
this
didn't
yet.
hear this? This is great, dude. Hold on.
I'm assuming it's going to be close to the little remark about President Obama that he was the cleanest, most intelligent, black man he'd ever met. It's like as if the rest of the black population isn't clean and intelligent. It's like, come on, guy.
What the hell, asshole?
Walking into landmines left and right.
Oh, how do I even look this up?
Good luck finding it on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Biden, Great Negro, I guess.
Yeah.
This is horrible.
If you're logged into your account, you're probably insta-banned already.
Biden refers to baseball legend Satchel Paige as the Great Negro at the time during speech. All right.
Wow.
Listen to this shit. This is great. I'm sure we'll get an ad.
Well, unfortunately. I just mute through the whole ad.
Hey, look, it's Joe Rogan.
Oh, hey.
Oh, yeah, I didn't turn that down.
Yeah, at least it's a skippable ad.
Birthday is today. Birthday. Thank you for your service to our country. I just want to tell you, I know you're a little younger than I am, but I've adopted the attitude of the great Negro at the time.
Why?
Are you kidding me? This guy is the president of the United States. Are you kidding me?
I'll never understand the left in general in terms of their, relation with the African American black community. You see these little comments and it's like, you're just pandering for their votes. You don't give a shit about what actually happens in their lives. Same thing with illegal immigrants. Yeah, I'll call them illegal immigrants because that's exactly what they are. They don't care about their lives. At the end of the day, they put them on some bus and ship them to some city, and then they forget about them.
Yep.
They just hope they vote Democrat.
And that's... I hope the people that they're targeting figure it out, because it's insulting.
Judging off what I've seen on the Rittenhouse case, the aftermath of that, every blue check mark on Twitter is still parroting the police are systemically racist because of this incident and this decision. I don't think they are going to wake up. I think at this point, we're so politically divided. You have one group of people that believe one set of values and one group of people that believe another, and there's no convincing either of any logical argument in retrospect to their political beliefs.
The scary thing is, I think you're right about that. I really do. And what I can't work out in my mind, I really can't work this out. I don't know how it would work, is the whole national divorce thing. My brain cannot compute how it would work out and be harmonious. It's not gonna be harmonious.
No, it wouldn't be at all. It would eventually lead to conflict just over territory.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to consider Texas being the most oil-rich state in the entire country besides Alaska, which would probably go to the left, maybe, I guess. It depends on how you divide the country. You're going to divide it north-south or east-west.
See, the thing is, though, is that if the left took over, say, Alaska, and Alaska's rich in oil.
Oh, yeah.
The right would end up taking Alaska back from them because they're not using the oil and we want it.
Yeah. And not only that, but by force.
Exactly.
I mean, it would come down to armed conflict.
This isn't going to work.
No. It'd be a battle over major city centers with manufacturing plants. It'd be a battle over every state with a port. You have to be able to transport goods from one place to another, and that's going to involve ports, oil, and resources.
Right.
And if you don't have those things and you have the ability to take them, you're going to do it.
Right.
Why wouldn't you at that point? So, yeah, I don't think the national divorce is really a good solution to any of this.
And that's what blows my mind about hearing the talking heads actually talking about it. And in certain ways, it almost comes off like they're encouraging it. Especially, I mean, I don't listen to any left-wing shows. If I want to be well-rounded or at least know my enemy, I should probably listen to left-wing shows just to know what they're saying.
I mean, the most I've seen out of left-wing media is whatever clips are being played on the
right-wing media.
I watch. And I mean, it's generally going to be the worst of them. I'm sure occasionally CNN has a great report about some topic, but it's probably few and far between and is sprinkled with, SJW nonsense here and there.
Oh, I'm sure it's probably SJW nonsense sprinkled with a little bit of sense here and there.
Yeah, right. I mean,
I mean?
Even in regards to the Afghan withdrawal, the left-wing media still touts it as a victory, which it is absolutely not a victory. It was a debacle. It was a disaster.
When it comes to that, dude, I don't want to say this, and I wasn't necessarily embarrassed to be an American, but at the same time, that was the first time I was almost a little bit ashamed of it.
Sure.
Because it was like, dude, We suck. Well, we don't suck. Our government sucks.
Yeah, militarily they're useless. I'm a pretty firm believer that any president should have bare minimum 4 years in a uniform of some kind to be able
I could
to
agree with
understand,
that.
like,
To be able to understand what it's like.
yeah, you're the commander in chief. He was the ultimate decision maker. He was
Mhm.
briefed by generals that we saw testify in front of Congress and say we told him that abandoning Bagram Air Force Base was a bad idea.
Mhm.
We told him that following the deadline made us look weak. We told him that an entire pullout wasn't necessary. He made a campaign promise and he wanted to follow it.
Yep.
And then in turn blamed it on Trump.
Yep.
Trump may have made that deadline. He may have made an earlier deadline. I think it was by August that Trump had agreed to at a certain point. But at the same time, he had conditionalities. You will abide by these rules once we pull out, or we will come back.
Yep.
And I'm not a huge Trump fan, to be
Myself
honest.
either. I'm not.
But at the end of the day, I do believe that had they done what they are doing now, you know, once again, oppressing the culture, controlling the education system. I mean, it's gotten to the point where the Taliban thinks that we're such a joke that they asked for some odd $1 million for what they considered aid to fight climate change. The Taliban. I'm fairly certain the Taliban is not concerned about climate change.
Yeah, they're over there burning wood and shit to keep warm during
Yeah.
the winter time. They're not concerned about climate change.
No, absolutely not. They have nothing to do with climate change. The extent of their carbon footprint is like busted down Toyota Corollas. And now, unfortunately, it's military issued MRAPs and MATVs and whatever helicopters we left them, which is again a joke. That was another aspect of that it's hard to recover all that material, but at the same time, it could have been handled a lot better.
Just destroy it.
Yeah, it seems like a good option. When you consider the amount of equipment, the amount of ammunition, the amount of small arms, in order to gather this all and destroy it, you might as well put the entire active duty army in Afghanistan.
Wow, are you shitting me?
We have more guns than soldiers over there. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. Every single soldier, at least in the army that I knew of, was issued a service rifle. Lieutenants were issued a service rifle and a sidearm. If you consider crew served weapons, those are kind of extra. Like, you don't have a guy that's issued a M240 light machine gun. You don't have a guy that's issued a 50 cal. Those come with the unit. So for every soldier that's deployed, there's a unit deployed, and they all have X amount of machine guns, X amount of 50 cals, X amount of artillery pieces. So there's more military equipment over there than people by far. And to recover it all and be able to make it inoperable is an impossible mission. So
wow.
you can't necessarily fault them for that equipment falling into enemy hands entirely. It is his fault, but logistically speaking, it'd be a nightmare to try to recover all that equipment or destroy it.
Wow. Okay. Well, all right. I mean, see, that's why I asked. I don't know these things.
Right.
So, and if this is too personal of a question, by all means, forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
But when all that shit broke out, with the botched withdrawal,
Yeah.
how did that make you feel?
Were
you angry?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a sinking feeling of, we spent all this time over there stabilizing this region for it, to all fall back into enemy hands. The targets out there, for the most part, when I was there, were schools and cell phone towers. They don't want their people educated at all. They despise Western society. And when I say they, I mean, I'm not going to say every single person in Afghanistan hates our guts, but it's probably a good majority.
Really?
Yeah. We had instances of Afghan National Army shooting soldiers. Just better
U.S.
paid.
Army
soldiers? We referred to it as green on blue violence. The Afghan National Police and Afghan National Army tended to wear like a blue jumpsuit uniform. So blue on green was an instance of one of their, what should have been our Afghan allies attacking one of us. And it was more prevalent than you'd think.
I remember hearing news stories about that, about, an Afghan army guy just going off and trying to take out a couple U.S. servicemen.
Yeah, and there's probably a couple of reasons for that. The main reason being money. We pay tribal leaders X amount of dollars to, give us intel, to keep insurgents out of their villages. That money, whether or not it's used for that purpose, we don't know. Mm-hmm. They might, hand it to enemy insurgencies who say, hey, we know the U.S. military gave you this amount of money. We want it. And if you don't give it to us, we're, going to attack this, village of yours. And sometimes instead of using the support that we could give them and saying, hey, we got the backing of the U.S. Army, they would just hand over the cash. If the enemy gets their hands on that and they, catch an Afghan National Army guy off his shift back in the village and he says, hey, I'll give you, 10 grand US to shoot soldiers when you get back on post, they'll do it. They're motivated by money over there big time.
Well, it makes sense. They're, for a lack of better terms, dirt poor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Their commodities are goats and camels for the most part, and opium, of course. But to the highest bidder. They're basically mercenaries. We were paying them to do the job for us. It was our goal to train them and have them take over the country. But at the end of the day, the general belief, and I don't like to speak in generalities, but the general belief of the Muslim culture is Islam, period. If you don't believe Islam, you're an infidel and you're the enemy. It's written in the Quran multiple times. I don't care who wants to argue it. That group of people, they don't believe in our values, and it leads to conflict. It always has.
Oh, man. So, wow, that was heavy, too.
Yeah, that's
was
a touchy
heavy,
topic.
man.
Yeah, that one might get you in trouble on YouTube, but
yeah,
it's an opinion. That's all it is.
Screw them.
Yeah, I agree.
Screw them. That's the whole reason of doing this, is to get people's stories out there.
Yeah.
And your story is fascinating, man. Holy
I appreciate
shit.
that. Yeah.
I don't know if you can actually answer this question because you're not a prophet. Now that Afghanistan is in the situation that it's in, the dust, I guess you could say, is settled, so to speak.
Sure.
What do you think is in the future for that country?
The same thing that happened back when Russia invaded. Even before that, more conflict, more tribal disputes, enemy insurgency groups gaining a foothold in the area and possibly using it to stage attacks against other countries. When's the last time since the withdrawal, before that period of time, that you heard of a major terrorist attack?
I can't remember.
Exactly. But before that, when we initially invaded Afghanistan, there was 7/7, the tube station. There was the original attack on the World Trade Centers, which arguably was the CIA botching some kind of a training exercise, according to conspiracy theorists.
The globalists.
Yep. Yeah, again. You had 9/11 itself. You had the American embassy in Dubai. I can't remember now. Somewhere in the Middle East, an American embassy was attacked. Taliban took credit for it. Just attack after attack after attack leading up to 9/11. And all of a sudden, we had a presence there, and the attack stopped. We hadn't had a major terrorist event since the invasion of Afghanistan. So why did we, have this arbitrary deadline to pull out? When we had no combat casualties in a year and a half, we had the region stabilized with 2,000 soldiers and probably 1 million drones. There was just no reason to do it. And in terms of what's going to happen now, it's just going to be more of the same. I would be willing to bet in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll have a new figurehead, bin Laden-like. They'll rally around him and gain funding and find a way to attack us again.
So
in
it's
some
just gonna
major
happen
fashion.
again.
It's just a matter of time.
Wow, that's not what you want to hear, but you're probably right.
Yeah,
Probably right.
I'd say there's probably intelligence reports floating around military communities right now that will tell you that same information.
Wow. Wow, man. Well, holy shit. Well, we're at 2 hours and 28 minutes.
Gotcha.
So, you want to wrap this thing up?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, I want to, dude. Wow. I want to thank you again for doing this. That was incredible.
That was a good time. Yeah.
I wasn't going into it. I wasn't sure. Not that I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but like I'm like, I hope I don't say something wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I'm not intimidated by questions. I'm not that kind of guy that gets offended easily. So you pretty much could have went full bore, and I wouldn't have said a word.
Okay.
Yeah.
And two, you've told stories before at band practice and
sure.
stuff, so I kind of knew what your experience was like, but I didn't. Wow, man! Like,
yeah.
I feel like I definitely know you better now.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah,
what I
get
mean?
that
Like,
feeling.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was a great story. So thanks again. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good people out there appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it as well.
And anything you want to say? Anything you want to wrap it up with? Anything you want to promote? Feel free. You got the platform, my friend. Take it away.
Just when we get back into it, if we start releasing stuff on Spotify, get back to practice and check out Single Barrel Blackout. Still have a Facebook page up and active, I believe. Check out this podcast, of course. And,
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Other than that, no. That's pretty well it, I'd say.
All right. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Big round of applause for Eric. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, much appreciated.
Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Google Podcasts. I'm still looking into that, though. Also, I see on my analytics today that I might be on Apple Podcasts, but again, I need to look into that. So take a look. Maybe I might be up there. Just look for the show's logo. And got some more shows coming up soon. More friends, more movie reviews, more news. Until that time, thanks again for showing up. And we'll talk to you guys soon. If you want to say goodbye.
Yep. Y'all have a good night.
Take it easy.
Was brought to you by Northern Enlightenment Studios, a division of Northern Enlightenment Entertainment Media. We hope you have enjoyed this program. Goodbye.
In transmission.